recording. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Zed Daily, episode 3 with my boy Pony Zook, aka Willie Zonka, aka the CEO of Zed. How you doing?
What up, Evergreen? How you doing today?
I'm very well, bro.
I
So,
uh I appreciate doing this. I've been listening to the start of this series, and I think it's something that the midday stuff is definitely a spot for Zed, where I'm happy people like you are starting to create some content because, like we were talking about behind the scenes, I think when people are sitting at their desk and at work, they're looking for stuff like this to listen to throughout the day. So I'm super excited.
100%, bro. I was a pool boy, and so I would just look up all the Zed content and just consume as I'd work, and it was entertaining as hell.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, especially as someone who myself streams after work. You realize it yourself. Like I find myself wanting more Zed content, during the day. Then when I'm kind of off work and can do whatever I want. So I'm really, really happy that more series like these are popping in where you can just have it on in the background and listen to it, like you said, when you're doing your work. And just kind of learn as much as you can about this game we're all trying to learn about.
Hell yeah, man. So to start, you were actually let's start here. So how did you get into Zed Run?
The simple answer that I'm sure a lot of people are going to give you is Top Shot. Top Shot got me into the NFT space, really hit Top Shot hard. Um, got lucky, got into Top Shot literally the day before. I don't know if you know about the big Jonathan Bales article that he wrote. That was like Jonathan Bales is he's part of Lucky Trader, which owns Know Your Horses, and he was like the first person to buy like a really expensive moment for $50,000, and he wrote an article about why he did that. And that day is kind of when Top Shot took off. If you look back over the history, I happened to get in Top Shot legitimately the night before that article came out. So me and my friends just got into it. It exploded. We ended up having a lot of resources on our hands, but we couldn't sell the moments and flip them for liquid cash at that time because of the way Dapper was doing. So I started trading them for different NFTs, and I started dabbling with a bunch of other spaces. A lot of them aren't even around anymore, but Zed Run was the major one that I realized I was able to trade a lot of these moments for Genesis horses. And if you honestly go through a lot of my stable, some of my biggest and best horses like Dank, Ambassador were legit straight up either deals for moments or deals for credits of ETH that were turned into these horses. So I got in through Top Shot, and then I kind of got into a rut with, okay, I love Top Shot. I have the highlights. I'm just accumulating more highlights. Utility, right? So then I raced some horses. I got some wins, and I just became absolutely obsessed with Zed. Kind of forgot everything else that's going on with the space. And to be frank, since I started with Zed, I'm really not, and you don't see me really in any other of these communities too much because I'm really just entranced and enthralled with everything that you can do with Zed. It's really a one-trick pony for me, and it's a place where once I found it, I haven't really have found the need to look elsewhere up until this point.
100%, bro. And I totally agree. I was in Top Shot as well. It was just that Zed Run, you have all that utility with the horses is that you can race them, you can breed them,
Yeah.
and it's a secondary market. Like it's on OpenSea. With Top Shot, it was just all within their own marketplace, and I didn't really like that. But once I saw the Zed Run horses were on OpenSea, I was like, oh, this is like you actually own this piece of property.
Yeah, I agree with that. Plus, I don't like to. You have to when you compare. I'm not talking shit about Top Shot at all. But the one thing that I noticed is in Top Shot, that was one thing. The marketplace, like you said, but also it was like the conversations were okay. You should get this moment. You should get this moment. You could talk about it a little bit. Like me and my friends talk basketball anyway, so it didn't add too much to that general conversation. But after that, I really didn't develop too many friendships within the community that kept me around because there wasn't like the integral conversations that come in when you're trying to learn the game of Zed. Like to race my first horse and to get my first 2 or 3 horses, I had to talk to 15 to 20 people at that point. So by the time I even started, I already had formed strong relationships before I was even on the track, which means like that's why I can put up like when racing doesn't work, when breeding doesn't work, when things don't work. I just have friends that I talk to now So the utility that causes conversations then causes relationships that just lend to people sticking around through the thick and thin. And that's something that, you know, the difficulty and the different things that you really have to, the niches within Zed that you have to learn about, cause you to want to stick around and be here.
100%, because like I can just recall getting my first horse. I got diamonds, and like
Yes.
you don't know. I'm sure you probably had the same experience with Dank. It's like I'm not sure if Dank was your first horse, but Diamonds was my first horse. So to me, I'm like, oh, maybe just every horse is winning races like this back to back. And so I went into the Discord. I'm like, hey, can you guys tell me about my horse Diamonds? And Ryan from Know Your Horses, he came and he was like, a bigger stable's gonna come for your horse, bro. That was like the
That's
best
dope.
shit. I was like the best shit anybody could have ever told me, because arbitrage comes from my stable after that, and I felt like a kid with like a golden ticket. I'm like, I'm gonna run home as fast as I can, and I'm not talking to anybody.
Yeah, yeah, and you get, and that's Zed, right? Like you can get that in other places, but everything really is that one of one that you can get a champion. Just to have someone like Ryan reach out to you and break down your horse. There's not much that other people can do to help you with whatever other NFTs you're trying to purchase in the other spaces if they don't quite do anything. So, I had that with Dank. I had that with some of my earlier horses. Like I said, when I came from Top Shot, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just kind of balling out and buying some high premium horses where I went through that, where I was just winning so often that it really stunk when I wasn't winning all the time with my horses. But it's been great. And I think the community here is why people stick around. And I think the game itself lends to the community growing to create the conversations and the friendships and the relationships. And I'm super excited to go to NYC NFT tonight to see these people that it's crazy, man. Like my friend group has tripled since I've gone into Zed. And that's more of the fact that I didn't have many friends. So it's a 555, only means you got to get to 15 or so. So it's not too many, but I'm going to meet these people for the first time. But these are people that I can truly say I talk to every day. I talk to 5-6 times a week. And I've never experienced this before. And it's all because of Zed.
Yeah, putting faces to profile pictures is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
you kind of spoke on Dank. Was Dank your first horse?
No, my first horse I don't even have anymore. I couldn't even tell you the name, but the longest horse I've had is my Z1 Ambassador. I messed that horse up so bad because when I got it, Z1s were still cheap. I had no idea how to play the game. I was breeding her with everything, running her with everything, places she didn't deserve to be running in, and her stats will never be what they should be, but she's my first horse. She's kind of my baby. Dank was my first UUU horse that I bought, not off a drop. So that she was really a lot of ticket, no research done, nothing looking into it. I saw someone posted that they were selling a Z2 leg UU. Actually, not even UU. She had the name Dank, so it was just UU. I talked to the guy. We negotiated for a little bit, paid him what he wanted, and it was legit all luck. And I don't even know if it's early adopter advantage because it was more luck. But there's some it scares some people, that story, but I also find some beauty in that, in the randomness, that there is enough randomness that everyone has a chance, but you can also play the game where if you play it right over and over and over, you do give yourself slight edges.
100%. And if you're looking at where your horse is placing best with MJ's tools or Know Your Horses or Haku, like that helps out a bunch. So what was your thought process with the Z2 Legendary, and why'd you go UU?
I'm a big UU fan. In general, like I don't even know what it is. Like I just don't even care about horses' stats before they're in my stable. There's something about starting a horse from scratch and having all of its stats want to be reflective on your stable. I don't know. I've just always been that type of way. And at that point, I was trying to find a price point that fit for me. And I had been talking to a bunch of people, and a bunch of people were selling me on Z2 UUs that they were undervalued. And if you think about what they are and how you make them. Z2 legs are so close to Genesis in my mind without being Genesis that they're completely undervalued. They have this, because they have leg attached to them, I think there'll always be this stigma where, legs automatically have to be below Genesis. I think as we move forward, some of that will change a bit. If you think about the two inputs and what they go for now and how much it costs, how much the two horses that you're putting together to get a Z2 leg cost at this point, the dividends that people are selling these Z2 UUs for are so cheap. And now that females can only make one offspring a month, and when you see how few Z1s there are producing, it was just something that this was a while ago, but I'm always looking for. Z2s are one of those horses that on the daily, I go to Haku, I go to Know Your Horses. There's a few genotypes and bloodlines that I just always look, even when I'm not in the market to buy, because you always got to be in the market to buy in this ecosystem at certain prices. And Z2s are one of those. I tell everyone that. And I know some people are saving for their first Genesis horse because they want that Jenny, but I think people should maybe be willing to look a little bit closer at Naka legs, because getting that Naka blood, especially at that Z2 level, is going to be super, super valuable in the near future.
Yeah, that's exactly how I came into the game, because I just kind of went and did my research on Zed Run before I bought my first horse. And I mean, Genesis was cool, but if you go and look on Zed, like right there on the front page, it says Nakamoto, purest bloodline, like best of the best. So I'm like, okay, Z1 Genesis, I'm going to look at a Z1 like LeBron James and Serena Williams. That's what everybody always talks about. Like, if these two people made a baby, would that baby be a super athlete? So that's just the way I look at those Z2s. You're taking the two, like, super athlete parents and putting that into a baby. Now, it's not guaranteed to be a good racer, but you have the best shot at that horse being a good racer.
I agree with it. I agree with that 100%. Like I had just said, this game is all about like the tiniest of edges. Like playing it the right way doesn't mean you're going to hit every time. Playing it the right way just means you're giving yourself the best opportunity. It's almost like you have to play this games with like a flame type mentality, right? You just want to keep giving yourself the best shot to get into the top three, and then more and more likely you'll be there. Yeah, putting them together is great. And also, it's a theory that I've thought about recently, and it's almost like an oxymoron-ish, but Zed almost ruined some values by coming out with their utility so close to the drops, by allowing racing to happen so close from when the drops of Genesis occurred. Less people started caring about the scarcity and collectibleness of what these NFTs are, and more about how successful they are on the track. And I think that lended itself a little bit less to how valuable Z2 should be. Say they just dropped horses, the Genesis horses, without racing, and people were looking at, offspring just on how scarce they could be based on the creation numbers. Z2s can barely be created because there's barely any Z1s. But the fact that there's now another valuation method, which is racing, it just lended itself to now people aren't looking at, specifically the bloodlines, specifically Genesis, legendary, exclusive. And I think these are things that when collectors come from the other markets, from where these things are looked at, there's not a premium right now, and there's going to be in the future. So I think people should start taking the time now to look into those sort of things that maybe don't have a premium now. Like we're talking about these Z2 legs because the inputs are so scarce, and maybe putting a little premium on it now themselves and forecasting in 6 months, in 12 months, it'll be 2-3 times where it is now. Because, I've talked to some of these people. I'm not like just coming up with these theories in my head. There's institutional money coming. And these are things that when they come from these Bored Ape spaces, CryptoPunk spaces, scarcity matters. How many are in an ecosystem floating around matters. And even though there's no cap on Z2s, it's as close as there can be to a cap without it being finite.
Yeah, 100%, because there's a certain number of them that can be bred each month, right?
Like one Z1, like only Z1 mares can only have one offspring a month. that have to be put with other Z1s to make a Z2 plus. I've heard that a lot of these people that are starting to spend top dollar on Z1s are doing it to put it on the shelves because they're worried about more long-term strategy. And I've thought about that myself. Like, should you consider saving some offspring and not just putting it out every month and maybe only producing 1 or 2 a year and putting a crazy premium on those offspring if it's a top selling horse? Because again, these people coming in are like dying for scarcity. So if you have a killer horse, they don't even think that the offspring need to be good. If you have one of the best Z1 ever, it might become a collectible item if there's only one offspring a year from that horse popping around. So to get it now, when people are still out there producing one a month, I think Z2 legendaries right now are producing at almost at as high a level as they will as the values of Z1 start going up and more people are looking to protect their investment and just putting them on the shelves as store of values.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see what they did with this tonight, how a lot of people are bringing out their Z1s. If you had a Z1, would you collect it or would you race it?
I mean, I'd race it, but that's such a good thing to bring up because we're talking about, protecting these investments. I had conversations with people racing tonight that legit a week before were like, you'd have to pay me all this money to race my Z1. No. Someone asked them to do it and they're all willing to do it. So many people are talking about, how they want to protect their investment and stuff like that. But, the rush of seeing what you have, especially when something like this is offered is too much. And I'm so excited to see these Z1s run because there's a really good chance that we're going to find at least one killer tonight, maybe two, that becomes these all-time horses. It'll be one of the first kind of events where it's live per se. I don't know how many people are going to be there. Based on the last one, I would say at least 100. Based on what I've seen from NFT, NYC, maybe more. I know from the few things that I've heard about it, because to be quite honest, I know as much about it as anyone else. The only people that really know about it are the stables in it. I've heard that they're trying to get like all of them there. So these people are going to be live, able to like root on their horses and talk about it. And I'm really interested to see how that goes because this could be looked at as almost an historic moment on how the metaverse really becomes that crossover where so often we talk about, we're going to all log in from our computers, go into Decentraland, as you see this week, watch the races, and that's great. That's fucking awesome, and I can't wait to do that. But this is the reverse, right? Now we're all getting together in the real world on TVs and just rooting in person, and this is the first time we're really going to get to see that with the Zed official event, and I can't wait to see how people interact, with each other for the first time because a lot of these people are just meeting for the first time, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be like one of the most stacked races in all of Zed. All Z1s, you're going to figure out whoever wins that race, like, that's a good horse right there.
And the Flames already came out, so people were dying about the Flames, and I saw that some people were upset. But like the tournament, when you got to the finals and the quarterfinals and the grand finals, you couldn't really worry about Flames per se because the fourth, fifth, sixth best highest chance at pulling Flames could have been like 1%, 2% behind the three getting Flames, and it only shows the top three. So when you're in these stack races, it's all about winning. And I was talking about it last night, and Stanley mentioned it. The eyes on this thing, if you get a horse that wins this and wins one of these races, the value that can be assigned is sheesh. And I just pulled up these races on my screen right now, and I'm looking at you got Lucky Jack, you got Yair, you got Captain Trippy, you got Crimson, you got Two Fools, you got Archibald. These are some of the best stables in the game where I think it's a super cool idea to do during NFT NYC, where if you're going to get people that have never watched a Zed event to watch a race, like you said, this is the best chance of giving them the most stacked field that you could potentially give them.
Do you think they're like sliding them some money under the table or anything, or is like any prize pool?
I've asked. No, they're not. And there's 3 or 4 people, I'm telling you, that are in this field that the week or two before told me to race their unraced Z1s. They would have to get a big prize pool to get it. Nah, they were, if anything, and this is to talk good about the community also, they're giving away horses. The 12 people with Z1s had to give a horse to run in these race. If you go to the tournament events, there's 6 races, and the last 3 are the Z1s, and the first 3 are another 12 horses. Those 12 are giveaways from the Z1 stables, that those 12 horses are being given to people that are at the event tonight that don't have horses. So not only are they not getting paid, they had to donate a horse on top.
So I wonder how they got all these people to come race their Z1s then.
It won community. It wasn't Zed. It was Ryan from Know Your Horses. Ryan from Know Your Horses put it together, got these guys, and then approached Zed with it. Who knows if it was like Zed coming to them, if, these people would have been willing to step up to the plate. I feel like, like if you or like Stanley or Sean or MJ like said something to me, I'd much more be likely to do it, than if like Zed said it. I think that's just what community does to people. 2, I think that they realize as tournaments come, they may be racing these horses sooner than later. And this may be the biggest stage they get to put their horse on, because if they decide to enter it into the next tournament, it won't be talked about until the playoffs. And by the playoffs, there was 795 horses. There's a lot of Z1s and Z2s we don't know about at that point that we're just learning about. That's the great thing I loved about the tournament. I have a list of all these new horses that I was excited to watch for the first time, that I want to go through and actually look at, that people are realizing there's not a lot of value on UU per se anymore with the amount that's being raced, that if it was going to happen in a month, 2 months, 3 months, they're like, hey, screw it. Let me rip off the Band-Aid now. But I can assure you that they weren't paid a dime and had to donate horses. So again, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting that we've hypothesized that a big event would be needed for this, and quite the opposite has occurred.
Yeah, I think maybe the only incentive for me if I had a Z1 is the marketing. If that horse wins, like, I'm just going to go sell it for 10x because all the eyeballs that are going to be on that race.
So if you had a Z1, you would have, so you're saying right now, if you had a Z1, you could potentially have it UU.
Ooh, that's a good.
Would you even have a UU Z1 in your bag at any point? Like, I wouldn't, because if I had a Z1, I would race it.
I would have raced it by now.
See, that's what I'm saying. So like right now we're dealing with people that it's like an interesting thing, right? Because these people weren't racing it already, and they're not getting anything for it. So it's showing you how these tournaments are really changing people's mindsets, that you have to race these horses. So for people like me and you, that we love racing, and you can find dank, you find diamonds all the time on the track, no matter what the class structure is, no matter what the format, we're gonna throw these horses in. These are quite the opposite. Real change in mindset here on Novus Earth that me and you love, that these horses now have to be raced. The premium on UU is at an all-time low, and the risk reward that you can see, that these DAOs and these big money people are buying these breathless edges and these potential tournament horses, that the common theme of Zed, again, is nothing is set in stone. Everything is about giving yourself the best chance. The best chance is playoffs in Zed tournaments will always be a crapshoot. It's just about getting through the qualifiers as many times as possible. Those are the horses that are going to go for the top premium, as these prize pools go from 40,000 to 80,000 to 400,000. That these people know what they're doing. These people know that if they race these horses and then they make the playoffs in the next tournament, they can sell for breathless edge, forever new numbers. So they're not doing it just out of the kindness of their heart. There's some strategy behind it, but it's nice to see that the strategy entails more with people like me and you, our stables, how we play the game. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it's cool to see how the sentiment can change with one tournament.
Dude, 2-3 weeks ago, I'm telling you, during qualifiers, these guys were saying never. You see what happens during these tournaments. It's the most eyes on Zed ever. It's the most eyes on these Z1, Z2s that no one's ever heard, because the tournament is set up for Genesis horses that, hey, the sentiment has changed. Maybe holding horses now means holding some floor level buttes. Like that's the market you play now. That hopefully that's the one that price point that's for everyone you hold. And for the Veblen always, you know, kind of going up value one like the Z1s, it's not worth it not to hold it. I mean, not to race it because there's too many now that are being raced. And as that happens and you become, you know, the unraced that there's no market for, you have to make that decision. And it's a scary one. And I don't know about you. Do you root for, if you see a Z1 and a Griffin, do you root for one?
I mean, I don't really see him in Griffins too much. Do I root
Any
for
high
them?
level horse?
Do I root for them? If it's not my horse, probably not.
If I see like a Genesis Z1, a Genesis Z2, a Genesis Naka, a Genesis Zabo, first off, I chase down those Griffins because I'm someone that I like to use those tests as let's see how I stack up. Like I don't want to be in a Griffin against Buterin 90s because flames or a win means nothing to me. It's a worthless race, so why run a worthless free race at that point? But I root for those because I understand the investment that some of these people have and the scariness of, you know, I was streaming with Zombie and his Z2 didn't pull flames and didn't do well in its first two races and he was bugging out. And this is a Genesis. Ooh. Then he put it into a sprint and it did well and it's become a very good horse. But if you really, I care about the community and I want people to do well. And it's a lot of times it's not a zero-sum game. So for Genesis ones to be good, I think it just increases the game in general. And for people to run them and do well, it's less scary stories that will keep people from racing their horses. So, you know, I tend to root for them, especially if I'm just racing like, you know, a Z30 Zabo that I just bred. It doesn't hurt me too bad. So I always like to ask people if they root for those horses or not in the Griffin. You get both answers.
I get what you're saying. Like you don't want people buying like what's supposed to be a quality horse and it's just getting dusted all the time.
Yeah. Like you don't like if it starts being like, oh, Z1s aren't doing well in Griffins, it's like, oh crap, I'm not gonna race that. And just like the humanity part of it, like someone just spent 50,000, they're putting this in a Griffin and it's not doing well. It's like, yo, I'm a human being. Yeah. I'm a human being in this space that understands how I feel. Like sometimes I buy like a Finney Legendary for 0.15 because I like the parents and it shits the bed. And I'm like, yo, that's 0.15 down the drain. Like if I did that with a Z1, even though it's not money down the drain, but like knowing that you can't ever race it and it's just a breeder, that would kill me inside.
Yeah, especially when you turn that mental flip and you tell yourself like, oh no, instead of 0.15, that's actually like X amount of US dollars. You're like, oh shit, that's a lot of money.
Yo, what we gotta do is we gotta link up maybe in like a week or two and do this again and go down the list of Z1s from tonight's thing. And we'll track it. We'll track these 12 and we'll see based on how they did tonight and the next few races, like, are they still running? Did people shelve them? And we'll see, like, did anyone, you know, quote unquote, screw themselves over and race a horse that, you know, should have never been raced. And this is something in itself that if that happens, you know, people may not want to ever do the next one. So everything you try is like, everything can go well and everything can go wrong, but that's the excitement with this. And I think it's super important to figure out what things don't work. And I also think that we're lucky enough to have 12 people that wanted to do this for us in this moment, because there's the two pots of people like me and you. We don't have the people that would do this are the people that don't have the Z1s. So to get them to do it is super nice, and I'm excited to meet them. And I hope the races go, you know, as they should. Different horses are getting flames at the 3 different distances, which you like to see. Some, like the Know Your Horses horse didn't get flames in any of the 3, and that's tough. But hey, they could have been 4th and 5th in flames, and they can win 2 of the races, and then they'll be laughing at us. So there will be some sales after tonight, and there will also be some people dreading the fact that they put their horse in this race. But either way, even if they suck, they'll at least be in the next tournament. And Z1s, we saw how well they did. So hopefully if they don't show out tonight, they at least get it back a bit with the tournaments in the formats that they've been.
100%. I don't want to see anybody selling those Z1s for like below whatever floor is right now.
Yo, it hurts, man. It's like, how do you feel? How do you feel about floor movement in an ecosystem that you care about, but you're also a buyer in, right? Because you're always looking to buy, right? Like we said, we're always looking at those certain genotypes, the Z2s. If someone's selling a Z, like if someone's selling it for $1, like I want to go scoop it. But on the other end, when I see these know your horses bots, sales bots, saying these sales that lower the floor, it also hurts me. So it's like this weird thing that I'm wondering how you, as someone who plays the game similarly to me, thinks about it.
It's interesting, right? I didn't really come in with the thought of Genesis, so I'm not really like at the moment too worried about how the Genesis floor is falling. As long as like the higher bloodlines, like the Z1s, hold decent, I think that's good because there's the premium for that. But for the Z2s, I came in when they were 1.1 ETH UU, and now I believe they're 0.5 something, and I believe that has to do with Zed setting the breeding minimums, but I mean, if I liked him at 1.1, I'm going to still like him at 0.55. So I would go for the Z2 legendaries. And I never really planned on playing Genesis, but if the market's going to keep dropping, I might as well get one if I have the opportunity of getting airdrop Zed Token.
Yeah, it's almost getting to the point where you got to scoop one because they're getting so cheap. But I'm rooting for it to go the other way, and I think it will soon. ETH is also a scary thing because people are comparing it to prices in April and May. Like they're just thinking about, okay, I bought this horse for like 0.4 ETH and now I can only sell it for this amount. Like, yeah, I know an ETH is an ETH. And if you buy it at 0.4 and you sell it at 0.2, that's a loss. But you also got to be pragmatic and realistic and realize that USD kind of does run the world. And if you're just buying ETH with USD to buy a horse, it is okay to then look at it in that mindset. And you also got to track values based on that. So horses that you think have decreased in value by so much may actually in a vacuum have gone up. So everyone seems to be, sometimes people freak out and it's going all right. I'm just rooting for the floor to continually go up, even if it prices me out of things and it prices new people in that are at the top that are looking for places to put their money for stores of value. I get excited when I see the sales bot says a new all-time high, especially with these racers, which is the market you're in. I love when people put a value on racers because I think that's where more value needs to be assigned as these tournaments start rolling out. 40,000 will be the lowest these tournaments ever are, is my estimate, since it's tournament 0. So you're going to see more and more of these Breathless Edge, Forever New, where it's like, what are these guys doing? But then you realize the long-term thought process is these 40,000 prize pools are going to be 1 million. Let me get as many of these bad boys as I can into this.
What do you think the entry price horse should be? Because Zed did change the minimum.
Free.
You think it should like, so how would that work?
I don't know. Let me just turn something off real quick.
Would you
See,
say
I'm not as smart about the breeding minimums as I should be, and I know to get free horses it has to be with that. And for me, there should be no minimums. I don't know how that works. I believe in a free market. I think whatever anyone wants to charge, anyone should be able to charge, and then it then allows you to be in control of all price points that you are. Right now, if you have to pay a minimum, you're already in your mind not willing to sell a UU for anything under that. So it kind of kills the market at that point. I'm someone who I believe in a lot of things. I believe that the minimum horse should be, almost free to a point. And I also think that people got to get more comfortable with selling horses at losses. I think I'm going to get to a point where, it may not even be worth it. And I may start it soon. Like I might start just giving away glue horses because like they're just filling up and I'm just waiting for someone to spend like $80 on them. And I don't think anyone's going to. Like these are but how can I responsibly sell a horse to someone that they're not going to make any money off? Like I'm telling you, they're not going to make any money off it. And I can justify it to myself because like I buy video games. So like, hey, I'll buy Madden for like $60. So if someone wants to toss me like $50 for a horse, I don't feel bad if I'm like, okay, like you obviously did your due diligence, race it in free races if you just want to like play the game and stuff like that. But it's, you got it. Some of these people are trying to sell these horses that the reason they're selling it is because it's a horse that loses money. You have to realize that like you're just gonna get like salvage value back. I think eventually there'll be a burn token, a burn function, but until then, people got to get real comfortable with selling at losses. And you don't realize, me and my stable have slowly started to realize that you sell a bunch of these horses at super, super, super losses at super cheap, they add up. And this game is just about getting enough back to take another chance. And what are these horses doing? Sitting in our stable, not running, can't win, can't produce. Let's give it to someone for $60 that just wants to learn the game. And maybe if that's not the horse that wins the money for them in a year when they have a stable that wins, and that's the horse that onboarded them, that could still be their most valuable horse.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I think setting a breeding minimum, like if you set a breeding minimum, you're essentially setting the secondary market price, right? Yep. So it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Do we really own these horses? And can we really have control over saying like, no, I want to charge X amount. If I want to charge $1, I want to charge $1. Like that's within my own rights because I own this horse. And then also touching on new horses, if we look at Netflix, Hulu, and all these places, they have like 7-day free trials, right? They should make like a trial class.
No.
And just have like horses that'll only live for 7 days. And you can race this horse for 7 days in the trial class. You can't race outside of the trial class. And in a week, this horse burns just to get someone into the game.
I've thought about that idea. Not that one specifically. Mine was more of the line. I mean, it's basically the same. Mine was more, you can give people like 5 race horses that once the horse is put in its 5th race, it just like burns automatically, like it disappears. But once you sign up for an account, like 1 or 2 automatically, and they're all just like these generic names or whatever, maybe even part of the process is like you go through the naming of the horse, like you get the whole experience from it. But after 5 races, like it burns automatically. And that gives people the opportunity to kind of learn and decide. And maybe it could be a funnel where those horses are donated, right? That's part of the glue token process. I'm Zed. You donate me your horse. I gave you a token, which is Dez or something. And somehow that token helps you supplement breeding in the future. And then I, with Zed, don't have to create any new horses because with these horses that I now have, I can change their algorithm or whatever, not change the algorithm, but make it so it burns, it gets sent after 5 races. New players get to use those shitty horses for 5 races, then they're burnt. You, as the user that had that shitty horse, gets a token. The person that's new at onboarding got a free horse to use 5 times. It's almost like the circle of life in that aspect.
Yeah, that's. Are you still in Top Shot? Have you paid attention to the trade-in ticket system?
No, not at all. People have brought that up to me. Explain that to me if you could.
So basically, what you were just saying, like they could do that with Zed. So with the trade-in tickets, like you can trade in your common or your duplicate moments for these trade-in tickets, and these trade-in tickets give you access to S1 packs, right? That you can only buy with trade-in tickets. But also, all those moments that you traded in with tickets, they sell those as redistributed packs. So, like, if you want to go buy a pack, like a $9 pack of a bunch of moments that people traded in for trade tickets, you could buy that.
So the trade-in horses don't go on the open market at all. They're all in packs.
Right.
Yo. See, that's smart. And there's so much, and that's why I get excited about Zed, because I think they're smart enough to realize that for some things, like the game themselves, horse racing on the blockchain, they have to not even invent the wheel. Mm-hmm. Some of the things like that they could take from, right? They could take that from Top Shot. Axie renting out horses, they can take from Axie. There's certain things out there that, again, they would have to change it to work from Zed, but they're already out there and being utilized and having success. And that's really cool and exciting that you say that that's working in Top Shot, because it's such an easy deal, an easy way to get people to offload horses, get them into new people's stables, eventually burn them. What do you think would be the proper, like you said, it's to get S1 moments, right? What do you think it would have to be? Would it have to be like a breeding supplement? Like how would you think it would be in Zed?
So you take, say I have a bunch of horses that are losers. I would trade that horse in for Des Token. I get Des Token, and someone can come and pay like $9 in ETH for like a pack at a random horse.
But my question to you is your version? Are you just taking their original? Are you saying that's how they introduced their already explained version of Des Token, where it's just a governance token, or are you saying that that should be the Des Token should be separate, and this one is now a new token we're introducing that is now has a different utility per se? Because in my scenario, like I'm just calling it Des, but I'm thinking of a new token in my head, which is almost like a breeding utility where it doesn't take all the breeding costs of it, but Zed is able to realize that they take such a big rake from it that they can reintroduce it back into the ecosystem via this token where it takes off like 10% of what your fee would be. And if you have like 10 tokens, you can then go out there and breed for free or however it would be, where no one is actually losing money. And the only person that's losing money is Zed, but Zed's making money because they're getting these horses that are then redistributed into the market. So instead of getting it from breeding fees, they're getting it from the secondary market. And it's just a new token per se that then spurs people to be able to breed without spending any of their money. It's basically like going into the breeding barn, and when you see someone has 0.03 as the stud fee, you can, instead of paying 0.03, pay with the equivalent amount of horses per se.
Yeah, I would do exactly that.
Yeah.
Either I would have it separate or I would have it the same, just have Des be able to do that as well.
Yeah, because I think that is almost like a give back, right? That Zed is, people are saying the easiest way for Zed to give back is to, one, lower in the breeding minimums, which I think has to come. Because like you said, it's crazy that it's not an open market when it's what we're doing, when we're creating these offspring, where they're setting a minimum, where it should be like, hey, I just want to make a certain amount off this, where I should be able to go find any stud that's under this amount. It's not whatever you tell me I have to sell for higher than that to make a profit. That's actually the exact opposite of a free market when you say it out loud, and it's actually scary saying it. So that has to come down. And I think that will, and I think that is going to come soon. And I think that when that comes down, it'll open up a lot of other things that allow people to breed more how they want, maybe have some more success stories that people are able to take. Even when we're talking about edges, not only is it better if you're able to set yourself breeds at minimums because you can maybe get more people to buy, or maybe buy more yourself. People that think they have edges can maybe go find even more deals out there when people are putting their studs out there for cheaper because they don't know what you have, but we know what you have. And then you'll be able to see killers that are out there for cheaper. Then I don't have to worry about selling them for as much. I have so many horses, I can't run this one. I'm thinking about arbitrage specifically, where sometimes they're looking to offload horses, but because they're at a minimum of prices, they can't get these killers into some smaller stables where if the cost was cheaper, then the sale price is cheaper. You get these killers into the cheaper stables, they get more of a bankroll that then they're able to give it back. And it's almost this trickle up economics in a way where it all starts by setting the breed fees at whatever they want to be. Because once you set the cost at an all-time minimum, to get it resale after resale after resale, it's a lower threshold you have to jump.
Yeah, 100%. That's it'll definitely be interesting to see how things play out. But going back to you personally a little bit, so you ran a solo stable for a while, and then you teamed up with High Horse Stables. What's the story behind that?
I didn't care enough about my horses, the truth. And everything I say about just liking the people and the community was like pony plug, and watching other people race their horses and shit like that just became more fun for me than racing my own horses. But I'm also not stupid. And I also realized how much money I put in. So I was like, yo, I have these horses like Dank, like Ambassador, some of these other ones. Like, I got to stop racing them like once a day when like racing was whatever you can do it, and actually go out there and try and make some money with them. So I just sent out some feelers to some people, and I was like, does anyone want to make a conglomerate? I'm down to meet with you. I'm down to talk with you. I'm a really trustworthy person, and I've been burned in the past, but I never really had a fear with that if I met with someone and got to talk with them. And I met with Bunshu, who a lot of people know, his brother Brian and his wife Michelle, and they were doing kind of their own thing. They had a smaller stable in terms of type of horses, but they killed the game of Zed. Like when you looked at their numbers and what they were bringing in racing wise with the assets that they had, it just became a perfect, match made in heaven. And they were high horse stables before. So Brian and Michelle were high horse stables. Bunshu was his own thing, and I was my own thing. So kind of 3 stables became one. Michelle and Brian, they do the day-to-day where if you see my horses on the stable, my horses on the track during the day, they probably entered them. They do most of the breeding. They're really the ones that, play the game on a daily basis, that for the horses that we have, you have to be willing to do that, or else it's not worth it. So, that's what they do. And then it allows me a lot to have fun with the community, do things like you're doing right now. And I can ask this question right back to you. Now that you do this, and now that you're doing more and more content, and you've done content before, but now you're doing more streamlined every single day. We're watching you. Have you felt that, did you feel what I felt? Like, are you feeling less and less about your, personal stable and more about what's going on in the community per se?
Yes, yes and no, because I think it's I'm not too sure how like a group stable would work out. Do you guys do multi-sig, and did you ever transfer any horses out of your wallet? Like,
we have 4 wallets
process?
now.
4?
No one should listen to, like, I'm bad to say because I'm like the most trustworthy person. So like we got 4 wallets, none are multi-sig. Literally like dead ass, I can go into this wallet right now and just transfer an ETH to my personal wallet, and like the other 3, I guess, would have to like do an audit of the blockchain to have to like see that ETH went. Like everything is trust. And it could be an easy thing where like I could like literally be siphoning like 0.2 ETH probably a month and no one would ever do it. No one would ever notice. There's so much better ways to do it. The way you got to do it now is like a multi-sig wallet. It's super easy with that. You put it all in there. You set it up that no one can move anything unless you get 2 signatures, you get 3 signatures, that one of them have to be you. But in the future, and I say this to you personally, I say this to anyone watching, I say this to people that are going to watch this afterwards, be open to it. To have a stable of the size you may want to be, and to be as successful as you want to be in the game, it may be a scary thing to commingle these assets with someone else, but you'll start realizing the synergies that you can have when you put horses together that just went from different stables to each. Our best breeds come from parents that didn't come from the best stables. It's my horses with Bunshus. It's Bunshus with Brian's. It's all mixes. Plus, another really interesting thing is, say I have 30 horses and I can take care of them, and say you have 30 horses and you can take care of them. If we combine, for some reason, the synergy allows us to not just take care of 60 horses. Our minds together can take care of like 100. So when you actually level up and start talking and start strategizing and start having conversations and really allowing people to check you and realize like, hey, you've tried that so many times at this point, let's try something else. It really just overdrives the success you can have in this game. And personally, because everyone in this game is still playing personally, no matter if you have a combined stable or not. I'm lucky to have teamed up with these people because nobody knows this game. Nobody knows how to play this game. And the more and more trial and error you do, the better you'll be. And, allowing yourself to, have other people that are experimenting with your horses. You can experiment with their horses. At any time of the night, I can kind of be like, I want to try this. And you can do that even if you don't have a combined stable with someone. That's what's great about this community. But I mean, just in a realistic scenario, when it's your horses and your money combined on the line, you're more likely to get a different answer from that person versus if I was just to reach out to you and be like, what should I do with this horse?
Right, because you have that extra set of eyeballs looking at you and maybe giving you an opinion or just a thought that you didn't think about, or a different way to go about things. Because I remember you saying you didn't want to race Dank in all three of the distance for the digital derby, and Bunch you and them convinced you about that. So how's that story?
I said we're racing Silly Sandwise no matter what in the 1400, which would have been our first one. They were like, no, you got to go with Dank. It's embarrassing how bad I am at the game of Zed. If you look at my horses before I teamed up with them, wrong distances, wrong dollar amount, wrong class, shouldn't have been raced here. Dank was my best $1,400 horse. You get caught up in these stigmas and these different things and the love of these horses, that because Silly Sandwise maybe ran some big races and won at distances, you fall in love with it. That you got to sometimes look into the numbers and trust the numbers. And me personally, it's very important for me to have these three people on my team to check me, because you can get carried away in this game and do deep dives and say that this horse is going to work. I want to buy this horse. I want to breed this horse with that horse. And I got lucky that they decided to go Dank, because who knows if Silly Sandwise would have won that $1,400 race, but we got lucky and Dank won all three, then went through the playoffs and ran the rest. And that's something where, again, if I was by myself and I just asked somebody, people probably would be like, yeah, Silly Sandwise, for sure. Run that horse. Yeah, that's a great 1,400 horse. But when you have, your stables on the line and they're looking at every single nitty gritty detail and know your horse's Hawk Q, MJ stables, literally at this distance, it's like 1% better, but you have to run the better one. It's the checks and balances become quite interesting. To be quite honest, sometimes I get frustrated. You have to be willing to toss your ego off. I have a little bit of a tiger-like mentality where sometimes I like to go off and do my own thing. But a lot of what I'm doing on Novus Earth deals with teamwork. And I've realized that, the more and more I've been allowing myself to drop the ego, that I'm a lot of times the worst in the room in whatever I'm doing. And it's allowed me to have, a lot of success. And I say that to many people. Drop the ego. Whatever you think it's probably wrong. Experiment, talk to people. There's a lot of people out there that are trying things that you may not have the bankroll or cash to do. Watch them do it. Track these horses. See if it works for them, so you don't even have to test it with your bankroll. There's so many different ways to be successful in this ecosystem and on this platform. And, sometimes you just got to be willing to open your eyes and experiment and try new things and not be stuck in whatever you think is the way it should be.
Yeah, I'll probably need to work on that myself, because I'm a little stuck in my ways.
I get that too. And I'm like that. You buy a horse and you're like, this horse needs to be like this, needs to be like this, needs to be like this. And it's like, nah, it's not a C2 $10 runner. It's a C4, it's not a C2 $10 runner. It's a C4 $2 runner. And sometimes you got to be okay with that. So many offspring. So here's a theory for you. There's more bad owners. There's more bad stable owners than horses on this platform.
Do you think people don't do their research and go use MJ's stables as tool, or like know your horses or Haku, or why do you think?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
People don't use it or don't know how to use it and get obsessed with the short term? Win a 1,400 win like a 1,200 at a variance when they're clearly a distance runner. So then you see these horses that it looks like they're producing bad offspring, but then you type on the offspring and it's like, wait, it's a $5 winner, this offspring, but if it runs at the distance it's supposed to, it's winning 15% in C3. There are so many horses out there that are just ran the wrong way. And it's unfortunate. And it gives this thought out there that there's more glue than there is. Look, there's so much glue, but often I find the people that are complaining about the glue horses are the ones that are racing these horses so wrong. And either one, racing these horses so wrong, or let's all be a little bit responsible at the end of the day. And if you have a Z17 Buterin mare that's produced 3 shit, 4 shit, 5 shit offspring in a row, maybe you shouldn't be producing it. Maybe you shouldn't be breeding it every month. Not every horse is meant to be bred in this game. And that's okay. And there's no function for it now. And I know that sucks because, like, if you can't race it and you can't sell it and there's no burn function, like, I guess I get breeding it, but you got to be okay with not throwing away money, which seems like an easy thing to be okay with, but it's tough to sit on a bad investment.
Yeah, and especially when you're not winning and it's just like, you made the investment and you just want this horse to win so bad and it's just not working out.
And it's random, right? As much as if everyone's going to keep touting like at some point breeding is random to a point, even if you've done 4, 5, 6 offspring and they're all bad and your only horses are this one horse that can't produce and the offspring, like, look, what are you going to do? Not play Zed, a game that maybe you only had $2,000 and you just put a whole $2,000 in? Or are you just going to be able to sit there? And again, it's another example of where what makes Zed so great is what also makes it so difficult. The fact that you promise people utility makes people want to use it. So people aren't willing to sit on a bad legendary horse, not realizing that in a year, it's probably going to have some value to it because it can't breed and because it can't race in the current environment, where when, you know, you go on Twitter and you see Shibu or you see whatever is pumping like 100x and you're sitting on something that's going down, it's a tough pill to swallow. So I do get both sides of it, but you got to be willing to be okay with it if you want to play this game. And it's not for everyone.
100%. And it was really interesting seeing people that they had unprofitable horses all the way up till the tournament. And then once the sentiment changed in Zed ecosystem and they made it to the quarterfinals and placed, like, they have positive horses now. So maybe you're not going to be profitable in the current ecosystem. And I think that's what they mean when they say all horses are going to have their place. Some are going to be able to just compete every day, like me and you, Dank, Diamond, Silly Samwise, terms of engagement. And some horses may only be able to compete in those tournaments.
What do you think about this scenario? What if I told you racing had to be either or? It's one of these two extremes. Racing is how it is right now today for the rest of time, where it's just paid racing. It's the $2, the $5. Maybe they work on the entry fees a little bit, but just play with the fact that it's going to be what it is right now. Or racing forever is exactly what it was like during the tournament. Every single race from now to the future is a free race, but every single race is part of some tournament that if you make the playoffs, you can then get winnings. And as you win in the playoffs, you win money along the way. And it may not be structured in that. It's not going to be that type of tournament only, because again, you're going to have some horses that have no chance. But at all times, maybe there's 3 or 4 or 5 different tournaments going on where every single race you're in the minimum some tournament that you have a chance. And you're not winning any money right there, but everything is being set to be in the winnings in the playoff portion. What do you think about those two options?
That's a rough one, right? Because some people, like me personally, I do like being able to just get money every day. I mean, I'm not profitable every day. I've lost like 0.1 in the past week or so. So it's rough, but I do like on the good days when you're making money, you can make money every day. If they cut down qualifying and they don't make it like it's rough, right? Because if you're going to do only tournaments, you're going to cut out the people that like to race for money every day, maybe like as a job or as a side income. And if you're only doing tournaments, you're going to have to make them long enough to where people with large stables can race all of their horses to the qualifying number. But you're going to have to make them short enough to where people, like, you're not waiting 2 weeks to possibly qualify for a tournament and then possibly make it past the quarterfinals.
Okay, I agree with that sentiment. So let's take that you're right in that there's no scenario where you can't do that, you do one or the other, and we could do both. Would you like it to be how it was, and in a structure maybe where it's like 2 weeks paid racing, 2 weeks tournament, 2 weeks paid racing, 2 weeks tournament? Or do you want it to be a forever, like the paid racing is going on forever and the tournaments are flushed in?
I do like I like it kind of how they have it now, to where with the last tournament you had the option to race the paid races, which would also qualify for the tournament, but you also had the option to race free races for the tournament. I think as long as they keep them separate and they don't have like a bunch of free races loaded up in the paid section, it just kind of keeps it more clean. So I would do both. I would give people, like,
Yeah.
if you have a really strong horse and you want to make money as you qualify for the tournament, give the people option for that. If you don't have the strongest horse and you want to just have a chance at qualifying and you don't care if you don't make any money on the way there, let people do that.
That's legit the perfect world, right? Like, imagine a world where every single race you could, like, it's still a paid race, you could make money on that race, but every single race also matters for some tournament. And right, like how Zed did it, like we didn't have to sign up for the tournaments. We would just know that there's like the general Zed tournament every month that could legit just be like the one we did, that like you're just qualifying up through that through paid races, while there can be a few other maybe specific ones that you have to like actually enter. But there's just something about knowing that the race is for like a greater tournament that I feel got people like pepped up even more so. I guess you're a good person to ask, like, what's the quality of competitiveness in you for a free tournament race versus like a $10 pot when you were trying to qualify?
Ooh.
Like a random, like you're running a $10 pot today. Think about how competitive you want to win that, and think about like versus during tournament time a free race, but you were in qualifying.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to qualify way more, just because
Right.
I
So yeah.
knew
So,
with,
so that's why
especially
I think
because
like,
you have a U-shaped horse as well. Like, it's hard to qualify with
yeah,
those U-shaped horse.
yeah.
When you go paid money, you have 50-50 chance. It's like, all right, I know my odds here. But when you draw it out over 30 races and you have a U-shape, it's like, man, every single one of these wins counts, as long with every single L.
Did you notice, like I noticed, that the grand finals was set up for U-shaped horses like ours, while the rest of the tournament wasn't? So it's like if Dank or Diamonds ever gets to the finals, because the U-shape's just all about coming in first. Like 64 points for fourth place when first place gets 1,000. It doesn't. It's all about getting wins on wins on wins. We're gonna have a tough time getting there, but if we can ever get the horse that sneaks through, and then Diamonds goes out and who cares if it finishes in last in 4 races, wins 2, you're going to be sitting pretty. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I'm happy you answered like that, because it really shows you that, your one answer was, you do always want to have the paid races. But I think there's more people that would answer like you, that like, if between the $10 paid race and the free qualifying race, there was just something about being in the tournament and running that race that was like, oh crap. And maybe it was because, the paid race, you're just up against the other 11. We're in the qualifying, you're up against the other 11 versus every other race in that funnel that's going on at that moment. So it creates this spark. And the fun thing is we're not going to have to choose either or, which is great. It's going to be the perfect world that you just said, which they just had, where someone like us, we can do the paid races throughout it, because we're probably more like with Diamonds and with Dank, we're probably racing the paid races more for the money up front. And then if we get lucky, 10 races in and we're like, oh shit, we're actually placing in a bunch, maybe we'll start worrying about it. But we're pragmatic enough to know that we have horses that those two probably aren't qualifying off the top. They're, part of the horses that you throw the first 10 races, and if any stick, you continue running in that funnel. But yeah, it created this spark that, it's funny because we could take this full circle now. We kind of started, one of the first things we talked about was the 12 Z1s running, and how they didn't have any, they're not paying them anything. There's no reward. And now we're talking about the feeling that people got from the tournament because they realized how important it is. It's all involved as to why these very horses are running tonight. People saw how important, and that feeling they got from qualifying, how much money you can make if you did qualify and did win throughout your playoff run. That, it's all part of the ecosystem that, I don't know, tournaments, I don't think people quite realize how big the tournament that just happened was for what's going to come soon. I know personally, besides the digital derby, I think Zombie stream for the grand finals was the biggest streamed event, like of people watching at once. And I'm not saying it's crazy numbers, but yo, that was me. That was Zombie and me rolling out of bed and Zombie being like, yo, mate, here's the link. Like, imagine Zed puts together an event of the digital derby stature that gets sponsored. That's how the 40,000 becomes 400,000, like that. And then you start talking about everyone running their horses. So when that happens, which I think will happen quite soon, we're going to look back to tournament 0 and look at how, because how successful it was, led to more sponsors coming. It just totally changes the value of all of these horses. Everyone that had a problem with it is going to realize that a rising tide raises all boats, and the market cap of Nova's Earth just goes up because of the tournaments.
Yeah. When you were racing for the tournament, like, because me personally, I didn't touch paid races trying to qualify. I only did free. Can you explain what your process was behind trying to qualify?
That's a great question, because racing for the tournament has been the most I've raced personally in quite some time. So I got so used to just putting these horses in free races that they were dominating. I had some horses that, you know, were pulling flames. Like, they didn't even qualify, but they were still pulling like 80-90% flames. So every single race I was watching, I'm like, I'm going to have a chance. I'm going to have a chance. Literally, like, you did not touch paid racing at all. Put everything in free. The adjustment has been crazy. I don't know about you, but have you been taking like a shellacking at all with like, I've been taking a shellacking by all these horses that have classed up and were doing well in the freeze, and now in paid are just literally bleeding ETH. And the saddest part of it all is it matches up with the maiden, right? So we ran these horses in the maiden, but we were also trying to get them into the tournament. So during the maiden, we were running free races, and we had some killers, some horses that we thought were killers. Now that these tournaments are done, donkeys, glue, and a lot of people you see are running into that, where they've either classed up or just because they have free race killers and horses that can't race in paid races. The sentiment of all these people having these great horses over the last 2 weeks has slowly come to, you know, you're starting to see the benches fill up again, which leads to people being excited about the tournament coming back, because it's the perfect world. It's the perfect world, man. I keep saying it. It works for me and you, where we can do our our paid races. It works for the people that can't make a dime, just to give them a shot each month and maybe get lucky and get into one playoff. And that's where you have a space where every horse can be raced, where you allow it to be in free races that matter, that they're not getting paid up front, because I'm still adamant about that a little bit, while also having paid races where you can get paid right at the moment. Because I'm someone who, I don't think paid races should be paid with the rake of others, but I do think there needs to be some value assigned to it. So allowing them to be in the tournaments is how you assign that value to it.
Yeah. How do you feel about the current rake, especially in C1? Because I'll give you my feelings. I don't feel like it's enough money. Like, if we're entering a $10 race and you only get $60 payout and you're racing against the best of the best, and if we have all these sponsorships, like, come on, someone sponsor Class 1 or take the rake out of Class 1. So, like, a horse like Rest in Peace, who wins a lot but also loses a lot at big money. If you go look at his chart, he'll run up to like 1 ETH and then almost damn near go negative and then go right back up again. So how would you fix the current like Class 1 system?
Tonight's race is crazy, because the answer is in this race itself. If you told me that this race was happening, I would have assumed that Zed answered this question, and the answer was that, you know, each horse entered 1,000, but the prize pool is juiced 4 times by sponsors, right? So along the lines of what you're saying, it can't be the rake. You can't have C1 races where the winner is getting paid 7x. The winner in a C1 race with the sponsorships the way they should be, if you want to get people to go to C1, should be maybe, with only 12 horses, maybe 15x. And that's how you allocate it, where like the 7x, the 6x maybe comes down in class, where it's the $2, the $5 races. Like, you take it from there, but you got to start juicing heavier prizes where, like you said, it's an idea I've never thought of. Maybe sponsoring an entire class. I like that, where maybe the next sponsor shouldn't be maybe if they want a track, hey, go get a track. It'd be kind of tough if you sponsor a class and have a track, but maybe it's just like, I don't know, Hertz rent a car class 1, right? And for a month they juice just class 1 just to see how it would be. And I think it would be quite interesting to see if a sponsor juiced a class just for 1 month, and for 1 month totally in C1. At the minimum, they didn't take any rake. Let's just say maybe they didn't juice it up. Maybe it was just no rake at all for Zed. See what that would do, because the easiest way to get people to race is just to increase the value of the reward, right? Which is exactly what you're saying. So it's in the future. And it already started with the tournament, right? Like, we didn't have to pay a dime to get in if we didn't want to. And the whole prize pool was juiced, I guess, with taking from our rake that they put back into free racing. But that's neither here nor there. That's their money at some point that they took for us, that they put back in. Eventually, the money will come from an outside source that will go into it, and then that will get more and more and more people to enter. It's a simple economics answer, as people want to put in the least amount of money and get paid out the most amount of money. How could Zed do that? I think it's easily attainable with sponsorships.
Yeah, and then Chicago Stables said in chat, he said, could you race up to it? Like, personally, if I was going to do it, I would allow lower class. It's hard, right? I mean,
what do you mean by that?
Like, if you're in class 4.
Could you?
Yeah, if you're in class 4, like, would you be able to race for the juice pots in class 1? If I was Zed, I would say yes, because you're still giving, like, those people a chance, even though they should know they're going to be racing against the best of the best in that race.
I think where he's maybe asking it for is, do you have to juice those? Because then that forces, like, the reason why I may disagree with you is then you still have people like, you still have those classes, like those horses in class 4, class 5, destroying those horses. And then infrequently when Zed throws these juiced ones out, they just go, okay, I'll take a race off from dominating class 4. I'm going to go up there. I think you almost have to do it where you have to be in the class at the moment where it's juiced. And to be fair, it doesn't even have to be like a spontaneous thing. It could be like, okay, starting next week, to give these horses time to get up there. But I think you may have to say, be in the class that it's being juiced for, just for that reason. Where I always get into class specific things that aren't class 1 is, how do you deal with the movement of classes? I've always thought, like, how do you have a class 3 tournament that lasts a week if someone's racing enough to move up or down classes, right? It all has to be with starting in that class, right? And I think it'd be interesting for this juiced format scenario.
Golden Glow touched on that my first episode with him. He said, if you're going to have a tournament race, have the race only affect your qualification and the tournament and not your class points. So if you're winning, it's not going to class you up, and if you're losing, it won't class you down. It's just only going to move you in the rankings of the tournament.
Okay, so let me ask you. So during tournament, so are we saying, but aren't all races during tournament time technically for tournament?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, they would have to specify.
That's my only question, because I'm saying, like, because we're saying if they pick up for those 2 weeks every single race you run, then in the algorithm it'd have to be like, okay, that's fun. Like, I actually really like that idea, right? But it would have to be for those 2 weeks, and then that sucks for people like me and you that are running Dank and Diamonds, not for the tournament, because we're out already after 10 races. We realize we can't do it. We want to move, up or down, classes. I mean, not that we're people that ever really try and do that too much per se. I do see people that, for the very point we're talking about, if you want the best of both worlds, it has to be where you are racing for the tournament, but also, like, every single race can be for the tournament, but doesn't have to be. You'd have to find a way, around that. It'd be interesting, because that is a great idea. There has to be a way to get tournament things to not impact the general racing environment. But then it turns into I'm someone where I want in its final form to be tournaments the major thing, where it's like, can you get rid of that from from, you know, how you look at a horse. It's such a, like I said, it changed the game, and it's not even close to in its final form. But the fact that they did it for 2 weeks and it worked well, leads it to be, at least now, where me and you have conversations like this and other people have conversations, and we're all trying to figure out how we can take it to the next level. At the minimum, if we don't come up with the next great step forward, we still have what tournament they just ran. It was super successful. So they might try different things that don't work, but at least, you know, we can always return to this one. But I really like the thought of, because they did do some things with tournament. There was some impact during the tournament time of how it impacted, you know, other races. But yeah, it has to be something with not being able to go up or down based on being in the tournament. But smarter people than me would have to come up with the answer for that one.
Yeah, it'd be a hard one to figure out. How much time do you got? So I'm respectful of your time.
Whatever.
All right, cool. I got a few more questions. So
whatever.
Well, going back into that then, like if I was gonna do it, I would say, like, let's say if you want, maybe like ask people if they want to race in the tournament. So maybe you get on Zed, it's like, we're running this tournament for 2 weeks. Do you want to participate in this? Yes or no? If you click yes, then you won't class up, but maybe you can only race free races. And if you click no, then like you can just go do whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, that is the way. Yeah. That's just all about, like, we don't, like, I don't know how, like, that would just be them having to do something with the, I guess, the blockchain, like answering, like asking a question that it was signed up, that I guess then you'd have to do it for like every horse. It would almost have to be in like the race, right? When you submit for the race, it would say like, is this one for the tournament? Is this one not for the tournament? That's how I think it would be.
That's how I would do it right there.
Like when you're in for the tournament, well, it has to be one of two ways. That might be even hard. They might just have to split racing down the middle at first, or see whatever the appetite is. And like where you can see on like the next to run, there's tournament events or my races only. On the events page, there may be like tournament events, paid events, and you may have to just go into the tournament races to not have them, you know, count. And we may not get our best of both worlds at the beginning, and you may have to go into that other tournament section, which is free, to just have those races count. And if you want to race paid, those won't count towards the tournament, but you may still be allowed to do those. And they may have to start with that method before they ultimately make it where, you know, you can do it all in one shot, which eventually it will. Eventually you'll be able to run a race where if you count for more than one thing, count for nothing, count for 10 things, count for one thing, but not something else. Now that we started talking about that and I'm looking at it, it seems like the interface definitely has opportunities for spots to be like, what do you want this race to be for? Like tournament this, like they can have more than one tournament going on. And you can be like, I want this race to count for tournament 1, tournament 3, tournament 5, or whatever it is.
Even beyond that, like you could do bloodline tournaments. So like, because people were complaining like, oh, Z1s are obviously going to kill Buterins. Yes, obviously they are. So it'd be interesting to see like a bloodline tournament to where you take the best horse from each bloodline and then have those 12 horses race against each other. But when you enter that race, it's like, oh, this horse is a Buterin. Do you want to enter it in the Buterin tournament? Yes or no?
Yeah, that'd be. And Lucky Jack has talked about doing that a lot, because Lucky Jack is obsessed with, he loves bloodlines and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely going to be ones with, you know, just Nakas, just Zabos, just, you know, this, just like that. So they're definitely going to have to find ways where different people can even be in the same race. And that race can be like, I could be racing in that race and this could be impacting my T2 score, right? And you could be in the race and it could be impacting your T4 score. Some people may like that. Some people may not like that. They'll also probably be the quite opposite, where, you know, it's like exactly what happened during the grand finals. They're just taking your horse and putting it into the specific ones that you need. Like it may be like, sign up here. Zed sets up like some wallet. I don't know how they do it. You send your horse there, and then the next 3 days you don't even have that horse. It's just they're entering it for you, bang after bang after bang. So there's definitely going to be both of those, but the what we're talking about in terms of having to choose to enter, I think is necessary for my philosophy of what I want, that there should be a tournament of some sort at all times. And that's why we're lucky for Zombie Boy with Zed now picking up the tournaments, because I think between those two, there'll be a tournament going at all times.
Yeah, every week. And his production is off the charts.
Dude, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him. I'm also happy because like I'm out of now putting on tournaments. Nothing made me hate Zed more than throwing tournaments, because it just caused me so much stress. I just got so much anxiety from like wanting to make sure people signed up, making sure people's names written in the leaderboard and stuff like that. I have so much more fun covering other people's tournaments. And if that means I have less say as to how they work, as to what happens, as to the structure of them, I'm okay with that, because these people are doing a fantastic job with it. And like you said, Zombie's content on top of the tournament themselves is fantastic. And I know for season 2, he's taking a lot of people are reaching out with tournament ideas that he has. So if anyone's watching this with a tournament they thought they've ever wanted to run before, I know some 2 or 3 of his season 2 tournament structures are straight up from suggestions that people reached out to him with this season. So I think allowing people to be the ones behind tournament formats will then even create more of a sense of community behind them themselves.
Right. You're giving people the option to even just make a tournament, which is cool.
He said that in the future. His final form of his website is going to be right now. Me and you can go on the website with the chat right now and be like, yo, let's do a tournament right now that runs today until like your next stream tomorrow at noon. And let's just see how people are doing. We fill it up right now. We sign up the tournament. It signs us up with our own page. It's going to be to that point where he's going to be more of like the community tournaments where you, for your followers, like, hey, I'm doing a giveaway this week. But the giveaway isn't a retweet giveaway. It's a, hey, I'm running a tournament. Let's see who's can be the best. And now you're in charge of onboarding everyone, getting them into the tournament. You'll have a specific link for your tournament. The game is quickly going away from 12 horses running in a straight line, and that's for the best.
Yeah, it's cool to see. So you kind of touched on making your own tournaments. Do you want to touch on the pony plug, and what is the pony plug?
A lot of people would have a lot of different answers to that. Pony plug for me is just it's a lot, man. It's something I really care about, something that it's people, it's a community, it's Zed. More importantly, it's about giving back. If people don't know about me and where I come from, I did not have Instagram. I did not have Twitter. I actually have huge social anxiety. I never liked streaming or anything like that before Zed. I was volunteering at like, my long story is I had some like crazy bad shit happen to me like in my personal life, and I had to like bounce back. I had like substance abuse and stuff like that, and I had to like turn my life around. And the reason how I did that is I just started volunteering at this children's hospital, and as much as I was volunteering for them, these kids saved my life. Like being able to go there every day, not every day, I went once a week. I'm not a saint, but I went there, I was hanging out with them. They just brought like a joy to my eye. And then COVID hit, and the first thing that they got rid of was obviously volunteers, because you can't have random people going in with these kids, obviously. And what volunteering did for me, I didn't realize until I couldn't do it anymore. Like not having that once a week of being able to get the perspective of, like I was walking in fights with like my girlfriend, with my parents, like arguments with my friends. And like these kids were in there sick with these diseases, and just had these smiles on their faces playing like these games. And it was just like one of the greatest life-changing things that I've ever done. And then when I couldn't do that, I started this, again, out of nowhere, this Instagram live with my buddy on his Instagram account where he had like 20,000 followers. And we got it up to like 250,000 followers. And all I did was Instagram lives were like 2 or 3 times a week. I talked to nonprofits and people giving back in that space, and just kind of having conversations like that with them, just like we're doing, just back and forth, trying to make it somewhat relatable. And then that went on for a year. And then I got into Top Shot and I got into the NFT craze and I started, having a lot of fun with that, all while still doing my Instagram live show. And then all still while talking to the nonprofits and stuff like that. Then as I got more and more into Zed, I teamed up with Stanley. I teamed up with Lucky Jack. Lucky Jack wanted to stream. Now that I had a year with Instagram, I was like, screw it. I don't have a Twitch. I'll make a Twitch. Let's just stream horses. So Pony Plug at that point became a me, Lucky Jack, and Stanley. We're just streaming some horses, having fun while I was still doing my other Instagram live. And then it just came to me one day. I was like, let me try and bring these two worlds together. Let's bring the degenerate gamblers with, the people that want to do good. Because honestly, the degens and the people, the gamblers, it's a really giving community. And the gaming community, it's a very, very giving community, which is dope. So one girl that I had on, that I talked to a lot, this young woman, Brittany, has this organization, Brittany's Baskets of Hope. She has Down syndrome, and she makes baskets for families that are welcoming kids with Down syndrome to get them prepared. And I had her on the show, and we had 50 viewers, and we raised $8,000 for her, which when I saw those numbers and the 50 viewers versus $8,000, I was like, holy shit, we got to keep doing this. So I started going off from my Instagram live and bringing these people one by one onto the Zed stream, racing horses, talking to these people for a cause. We hit Brittany's, we hit this young girl, Kinsley, which was great. She's a cancer survivor and she's big into horses. So when she was watching the horses run, it was amazing. I don't know if you know Painted Ponies, but his son, Alex, at the time was a cancer survivor. So we got to talk to him. Unfortunately, got into remission, a few months later. So he's dealing with that now. But it kind of just turned into, we raised money for a lot of people. And then we found Extra Life, which Extra Life went right back to the beginning of what I did, which was helping sick kids. No less polarizing cause than helping sick kids. I truly mean that. So Extra Life just deals with the children's hospitals. So instead of raising for a bunch of different foundations, we found a single one where we raise all of our money to, and all the money goes there. And legit, everything we do is a passive income stream for charity. The tournaments we're talking about, how we've done them so far is about an 85-15 prize money to charity rake. So 85% of the entry fee gets put back into whoever enters the tournament. And the tournaments are usually, they were 3 days. It was first day, there was a cut of half. Second day, there was a cut of half. And the third day, the top 10% would get paid out of that 85%. Then the other 15 would go to charity. And it was just a simple way to give back. And I really loved everyone that was willing to enter the tournaments, because it was almost the opposite of juicing prize pools. It was devaluing them, where people knew only 85% of the prize field was getting paid back to them. So they knew that it was really for charity. It was to really have a great time. It's not like our tournaments were competitive, but these ones are on a next level. For us, we saw it more as we fit the need at the time of needing to put on the tournaments. But now that you have these great establishments like Zombie, like Zed themselves, putting them on, we've just became more, of a fun stream. Everyone, I suggest that everyone, if you want to try it. It's so much fun. I can see that you have so much fun doing it. We just watched the horses. On Tuesday, we have stable duels, which is probably my favorite thing to do personally. We got to get you on that. We got to get you on that. I'll put you on the next 4. GVG's up, and then we're on to the next 4. I'll get you on that with Archibald. You guys will be 2 of the next 4. I absolutely love that. I'm always thinking of I knew when we did tournaments, they were not going to be forever. They were always someone was eventually going to take that. I think stable duels is a forever thing, for something that I could see myself really only doing. I stream 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes even more. In a perfect world, I think I'm just going to probably be doing stable duels. I'm not someone who needs to, I think everyone's slowly kind of figuring out like specifically what they do as more and more and more people come in. Like people were just streaming to fit needs and doing stuff to fit needs and stuff like that. We're always going to be more of like, we don't have our shit together. We shouldn't be putting on tournaments. We shouldn't be doing stuff like that. We're just, entertaining, watching horses, watch them run. Stanley and Doughboy, Tish, Lucky Jack. But again, it's a community. Anyone that ever wants to stream or wants to pop up is more like, is free to come on. It's so funny when people like ask me the question, like, what is Pony Plug? And I know I just went on a freaking 15-minute rant, but it's so tough for me to answer with a specific question because I don't from the inside see it as anything more than a bunch of guys that like stream together. But like, I have like, when I'm doing this, I have a shit ton of fun. Like I can't stop talking. When I stream with Zombie, I have a lot of fun. Like it's just like those group of guys that I'm streaming with. But like I could do it with you. I can do it with anyone else. It's so much fun. And this whole space is like so much freaking fun that I always push people that reach out to me and be like, oh, should I get a mic? I'm thinking about streaming, blah, blah, blah. Like, go do it. It's a lot of fun. And you'll see quite soon that it increases what you get back from this platform so much more if you're willing to put a little bit more out there.
Yeah, I think what makes your guys' show a great show is exactly what you said. I mean, it starts with like the dynamic that all of you guys have, like you, Lucky Jacks, Tish, Stanley, like Doughboy shitting on East Coast horses because he's getting dumped on in stable duels. Like that shit's funny, bro.
Yeah, no, it's so we're all so, if you know who, like we're all so different and we've never met each other and it's just a ton of fun. But we're always like, it's always like a moving thing. Like I think going forward, and I'm still going to talk about it with them, I think I'm also starting a Monday stream as well. And that one's going to be with Keith. And I think I'm going to slowly start rolling off the Friday stream because I have something popping up. So my streams more are going to be Monday and Tuesday night, which I'm excited for. And we're going to get that going. But yeah, it's a ton of fun. And the dynamic is super cool. And now we're just worried about, we want to make sure that, not all the shows have, 6, 5, people on them. 1 or 2 or 3 tends to create better conversations. So we're more in the works of doing that, with also being very, very respectful of the fact that I think slowly people are starting to like work out their niche. Like I know at 12 at noon, like from now on, like as long as you keep up with this, like I see Zed Daily now as like the noon thing. On Sunday night, I think of ZNN. On Tuesday night, I think of MJ Stables. From Tuesday to Thursday, late night, if I'm up, I automatically go to Sean Versal. Like there are certain dates that like I think people should start realizing that, those are people that have put enough time into this ecosystem that they should get, those specific times. But also like if you have more to give, there's 24 hours in a day. And people want to take content at all times, whether it's 9 a.m., whether it's 9 p.m. If you have something good to say and it's something that can help people learn the game, people will listen. And I'm sure, like, I know the feeling. Like, I'm sure when you started it, you were like, damn, I don't know how many people were watching. And then I was watching yesterday and you had a bunch of people in here. And I'm sure you were like, damn, like, I didn't realize people were actually going to listen to me. And then it just starts going and going and more people like what you have to offer. And there's so many people that have something to say in this community, and you should say it because we're all trying to learn it. And if my stable is good, it's better for you. If your stable is good, it's better for me. If everyone watching stables gets better, it's better for us, because right now, all of our stables is tied closest to how Zed does versus more our individual horses in our stable. Like if Zed takes off, it's less about how our individual horses are doing, and just like the floor on like a horse may be so high just because Zed takes off that we should all be really rooting for each other. And it's the exact opposite of a zero-sum game. And that's the philosophy where, you know, I'm always trying to everyone love everyone. And it's tough because I also love to talk shit, and we're also racing horses. So you got to be competitive. even with Extra Life and raising money for sick kids, there's the charity leaderboard. But also remember that it's not exactly the zero sum game. And unless you're in a race with someone else, you'd have a very, very tough time giving me a valid reason as to why you're rooting against someone. There are, and look, again, there's obviously outliers, and I don't want to put words in anyone else's mouth, but realistically, if you're not in the race and someone else's horses are going off, we should all be rooting for each other to win.
Right. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I think the community is just gonna grow a lot over time, and I think what you said was great. Is like, don't try and step on anybody else's toes. Like,
No.
recognize where people are streaming at. If a bunch of people are on Twitch, if Sean's on at this time, like, all right, just pick a different lane, because you never know. Like, instead of trying to step on someone's toes, you could build your own lane, and that's what I'm kind of trying to do over here. But I think if a lot of people did that and everybody had their own time slot, it would just help the whole ecosystem.
And it's just the way to go. Like, I'm like, and maybe to a fault, I'm very, very anti stepping on other people's toes that have put in the work. So like I'll even, like, I could say this out loud because it's not even like a bad thing. It's just a story. Like, when Tish and Lucky Jack were starting their Wednesday night stream to do the Wheel of Deals, I was like, you can ask Tish, I was like adamant, like, I swear, like, you guys don't, not for a minute over like the Know Your Horses stream. Like, they got Wednesday night. Zed Retro does it before Know Your Horses. Then Know Your Horses starts normally at 8. Like, you guys got to make sure, like, I'm fine with Wednesday. And like, I can't tell you when to stream, but like anything that I want to be associated with, like, I'm not about stepping on other people's toes. I'm about the opposite. Like, yo, I'm more likely to move around to help people, or I'm all about, and I'm the worst at it, but like raiding people. I put Post-it notes on my computer now. It's like, go after me so I can raid you, or go before me so you can raid me. Like, let's not steal people from each other. Like, let's be frank. If Sean has a bunch of viewers, if MJ has a bunch of viewers, if I have a bunch of viewers, if you have a bunch of viewers, if anyone has a bunch of viewers, we're talking about 100 max to 150. We saw Zombie had 180 on the grand finale. Why split those people up, right? But we shouldn't be splitting those people up. It's about making sure that when people come in, they know at noon you get Zed Daily. On Thursday nights, if you want your horse looked at and broken down, Thursday nights, MJ Stables. If you want anything about what's going on with Know Your Horses or the updates, you know to go there on Wednesday. You know, if you have a Griffey, you save it for Friday with Lucky Jack. For the State of the Union on Zed, you know, Sunday night is going to be ZNN. They kind of break down the last week, talk about the next week. So you slowly start to see niches being formed and people starting to realize exactly where they fit. And that's going to be even better for onboarding of people, because I'm not even talking about it for clout purposes. Like, don't stream over somebody else to take away from their clout. Like, don't stream over someone else because you're splitting up people that are trying to find good quality content, and now they can't find it. Like, there's not that many people streaming a day. We shouldn't have to decide like, hey, this one or this one. It should be like, okay, on Wednesday, all the Zed content, I'm new, I can now, get all of it. And I know some people have worked on a calendar. I think talking with Zed, that's super, super, super serious to get a calendar going that people know. I know for now they can't put their stamp of approval on, any individual stream other than, retweeting what's going on, because of the fact where anything they're associated with, it's technically now they have to watch what people say and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm all about raising all boats. And that was a self-discovery story as well. When you start streaming, it is a narcissistic hobby to have, right? Not ever doing it before. I kind of hopped on stream and people started watching me. And then I was like, yo, I want to stream more. I want to get more viewers than other people get, right? And I was looking, like, I remember in April and May, I was looking at the other streams and being like, yo, they have this many. Like, nah, we don't have that many. We got to get more. Like, let's figure out things to do. And now it's like, yo, like, when these guys do something dope, like, I want to show it off, because if someone gets, like, maybe the onboarding for someone is Zed Bets. Maybe the onboarding for someone is MJ Stables breaking them down the horse. Maybe the onboarding for someone is Stable Duels. But we just got to get them onboarded, because once they're onboarded, I don't care how they get here. then it's everyone's opportunity that's making content to get it. But it's so much easier if none of us individually put the onus on ourselves to onboard every single person that's looking for content. Like, yo, I should be using you you're going every day at noon. Like, I should be like, okay, look, people that want to learn about Zed, yo, go check out Zed Daily at noon. Now, all I literally have to do is stable duels, right? Like, I can let everyone else that's already streaming at that time take the mantle, and it's about trusting each other. And that's why when you reached out to me about doing this, like, I jumped on it. I love, having these conversations with people to kind of realize what they're all about, because for whatever reason, I've been bestowed, even though I'm terrible at answering DMs, people are always asking me questions. My only answer to people, I never answer people with details or with, an answer with, to the actual question. My answer is always go to this person, go to that person. My answer is always to follow up with someone else, because that's what this community is all about. You start realizing who knows exactly what, and it's really, really important to get the people that need that information to the right people, because you a lot of times have one chance with these people to onboard, especially as difficult as it is with the money that we're talking about. And again, rising tides raise all boats, and we need to get into the habit of, no matter what, like, talking each other up, helping each other out, working on each other stable with each other, squashing beefs, not having an ego. If someone has a difference of opinion, so what? Like, man, like, even just off the top, like, I think me and Dan Shan hated each other. And now me and Dan Shan are like, okay, because like we were both like, let's just drop the ego. And I'll be honest with you, could be variance, could just be this month on Novus Earth, this month that I've been friends with Dan Shan, and I've been talking to him a lot with my stable, getting suggestions from him, my breeding has gone up. I'm not saying he knows anything. I'm just saying, for my specific example, I dropped ego that I had. As much as I thought he was an asshole, I was being a scumbag as well. Will we ever be best friends? I don't know. But I mean, just him realizing that maybe I was an asset to him, and maybe me realizing that, hey, he might know something, I don't know. Maybe I should just stop like shitting on him. There's a lot we can all learn from each other, and, just reach out a helping hand to those who, seem that they may not know exactly what they're doing. And the one thing to realize is, don't force your way of play on other people. There are so many different ways to play the game that successfully work, that it's okay if someone isn't playing it the way that you think they should be playing it. It's their stable. Let them do what they want, but also give them pointers along the way, and keep your eyes open. Success breeds success. And just because you're successful now, you may not be as successful as you could be. Every day, I'm looking at stables that I'm learning about that I didn't know anything about, that I'm literally just reaching out to. I'm like a weirdo. I sit in all these Discords, and I don't comment to anyone, but I see who's talking, and I DM them, and I specifically ask them questions, because the more and more and more people that come into the ecosystem, the one thing about that is the more and more and more and more muck there will be, but also the more and more and more good information there will be. You just have to be willing to go out there, and you also have to be willing to promote it. I think that that's such a simple thing that people forget about, is be as loud for good people as you talk shit about bad people. It's like, why is social media popping when we're like retweeting like a beef or a hate? It should be like, oh, someone has something good, like, let's share this, let's spread this. So I'm all about, like, because I'm someone that I know, I bitch, I complain, I moan. I better make sure that I'm working on the other end, that like if someone's doing good stuff in the Zed community, or someone's passing on knowledge that needs to be passed, retweet it, like it, comment on it. Again, getting good information into other people's hands makes your stable more valuable.
Yeah, and it's hard to understand context over Twitter, right? Like, you're not hearing the person's voice, so it's hard to understand someone's intent with what they're trying to say.
Up on a call, man. Like, before you say something personal to someone, which I've probably gotten to more general Discord beefs than probably anyone. So, I can say it because I'm no holier than thou. Like literally say you want to just hop on a video chat. So much stuff gets like crossed in words, and then you realize they're not even fighting over Zed. It's like it becomes like a dick swinging contest, and people are just like shitting on each other from nothing that was even like nothing. Like you're getting personal over like these horse battles. Like no one's actually talking about the horses anymore. It's just that people are like anonymous. One, I think people will have better conversations live. Two, I think a lot of people, you'll realize they're phony. They wouldn't agree to talk to you face to face. And then if that happens, you can't even let those people get under your skin. So I'm always trying to have the face-to-face conversation. It allows you to ask more questions. It allows you to get more feedback. It allows conversations that sometimes span on weeks to be like squashed or taken care of in 15 to 20 minutes.
Right, because you can have the actual like discussion instead of like shit posting at each other. You can have an actual discussion. And one thing I liked about what you've been doing, I don't know if you still do it, but you did plug talk. Will we ever get that back? And,
it's coming back.
Okay.
That's what's coming on Monday. That's what's gonna come on Mondays. It's gonna be with Keith from Crimson. Because he's a guy, like I have a list of people where I don't even message. Like me and him, we just ship links back and forth. And if we have like a question for each other, it's just, and we know to like hop on. Because really, when you start getting into these conversations, you can't have them over like text anymore. But plug talk is good, and plug talk is more up my alley of what I actually like. We're going to structure plug talk exactly how the Manning broadcast is for Monday Night Football. There's going to be, it's probably going to be one or two guests. There's going to be the racing going on in the background, but unless something crazy is going on with the races, like I'm not even going to call it. Like say it's me, you, and Crimson, like our horses will be in the race. We'll be throwing races with the chat, but we're not going to be commenting on the races. We may not even be talking that much about, we'll be commenting on Novus Earth and stuff like that. But like, again, there's Zed Daily, there's MJ Stables, there's all these great shows, ZNN. Like I'm not trying to copy ZNN, like we're not trying to recreate what other people are doing. Ours is going to be more into like who are you? Like, what are you doing here? Like, we can, like, how does your stable tell a story about you, right? Like, even a general question of, like, imagine how long someone could actually talk about if I was just like, tell me about, like, 10 minutes why you name your stable name, what you did. Probably off the top, you'd be like a 5-second answer. Then when you think about it, it's like, wait, this, that I named this horse because of this. There's so much you can learn about someone as to, like, because of like the assets they hold. And at the end of the day, these are assets that you have the right to name, that you have the right to breed, that you have the right to make different decisions about. So I really, really, really want to get to know these people and make it more of a metaverse and less of the virtual world where what you're doing is super important, putting faces behind names, getting more people out in front. That I think more great conversation happens on the back end, on the anonymous side. If people learn who each other are, people know who each other are. A lot of my best friends have come from stable duels now. Like I didn't really talk to Arbitrage before the first stable duels episode. I hit him up. He's like, yo, I'm like, yo, you have the best stable. Can you come on stable duels? They won like 4 weeks in a row. Now me and Arbitrage like are always like talking to each other. So you don't understand how much, taking the extra step of actually having a face-to-face conversation makes you more willing and less anxious to just want to talk. At the end of the day, like, look, if me and you are going to be friends, we can't just talk about virtual horses all day, right? But to have our virtual horses be as successful as we want them to be, we should be friends. So it's like both things work in unison. Like it's crazy to think how like me and you should be talking about, the Steelers, Seahawks, Super Bowl. And in a sense, that conversation, working on our friendship, also helps our stable. But too often the conversations that we all have like are about the horses, right? You don't actually know anyone. Like I'm trying to buy a horse for $5,000 off you. Like I don't even know who you are, right? Or like I'm trying to trade with you. I don't even know who you are. So it's just about bringing people into the light who want to. And it's not for everyone. But to those that are on the fence, I can say that people that have come live on stream for the first time, not just with me, just with anyone, have said that their relationships in the community in general have strengthened once people saw who they were, saw what they were about, got humanized, realized that, you know, oh, like once you can like see the person in your head when you're reading what you're saying, it just gives them more of like a human type feel to it.
Right. Because you never know. Someone like on Twitter, I could be joking, right? But someone could view that
100%.
as like me being a dick, right? But they just didn't get the sarcasm within whatever they were reading.
Especially when you don't know, like you don't know, like we don't know any of these people, right? Like we're dealing with people like I don't like we've never met these people before what they said on Twitter, so I don't know your sarcasm, right? I don't know like or some people just suck at writing. I'm one of them. I get on Stanley sometimes and I'm like, you gotta like there's so many people that like it's not what you say at all, it's how you say it. And like the social media aspect of it, just always like if you're tweeting something, it's always gonna sound a certain way. But if you just say it to me and say why you're feeling it that way, it's like, yo, what you're saying is 100% right. But because of the way you said it, I'm just not gonna listen to it the first way. So there's so much of just having conversations. And that's why I tell people to stream, because even if people don't watch live, you can always save that stuff. And there's so much, hey, I'm saying this and no one understands what I say. Like, here's 30 minutes of me talking about it live. Maybe you can understand like what I'm trying to say. I know there's been a few people that people have recently learned to be okay with just because of the fact that they started coming on streams and they started actually talking out loud as to some of the stuff they were saying. And you start realizing that maybe there are a little bit of trolls on you know the Anon and Discord and Twitter world, but look, I live in a binary world of you're either like a bad person or a good person, and I'm a big boy now, and my feelings don't get hurt. And like, look, there's a difference between being a dick and being like a bad person, right? A lot of my best friends are dicks, right? I'm sure a lot of your best friends,
Right.
you can put in the same thing, but it's just like everyone put your ego aside and realize like who's a bad person, who's a good person, and just like, I mean, be willing to have conversations and reach out to people and don't get into the Twitter battles and the things that look bad. Everyone here is an ambassador for Zed, whether you like it or not. If you're playing the game now, if you're watching the stream, if you're doing a stream, you're an ambassador for Zed, and it's your right to say anything you want at all times about them. But just remember that when you're doing that you are one of the few. And I say that because in the near future, there's going to be 10, 15, 20x people in this ecosystem. So you are one of the few here now that is early and has a responsibility and has an impact on how many others will come here in the future. And if you want it to be 20x, if you want it to be 25x, if you want it to be 30x, you have as much of a say in anyone in this decentralized world as you want.
Was Dan Chen ever able to change your mind and sell you the blood tool?
Yeah, I have it.
I've seen two people have very strong stances against Dan and buy the blood tool. It's very cool to see because it shows that he's just probably misunderstood, and a lot of people just misunderstand him.
He's a dick. Let's just call a spade a spade. Dan Shan's a dick, but like I say that out loud, and I'd say that to his face, and I'd say like, but like I also like him. Like my thing was never the like his Zed thing. Like I just always thought he was a scumbag, and that was me again being holier than thou and being like, oh, he talked bad to me, blah, blah, I'm not gonna shit on like what he does, blah, blah, blah. But then you start realizing like you talk to, I mean, I can say who has the blood tool. You talk to Kirk from Crimson, you talk to Arbitrage, you talk to Good Boy Racing, you talk to Mula Mula. All four, like I reached out to those four people specifically. Like I knew if I made this change, like people knew like I was one of the more outspoken about Dan Shan. Like people were going to come out and question me, and people were going to say that you're a flip. Like I needed to make sure that like what I was getting was worth actually putting up with the backlash. And I'm fine with getting because I don't care but I just wanted to make sure that it was worth it. They all swore by it. Who am I to put personal feelings in front of what I consider four of the top stables to say it is actually worth it? So I put it, and then Hunter Archibald, he was even more outspoken than me.
That was the second one.
He was even more like, I died down. Like Hunter was on, like everyone with snake oil, snake oil, snake oil, snake oil. It's a beautiful thing when people can start, proving what they're doing, and not only are more and more people getting it, so he has more like people that can give him testimonials. The Maiden, the Zed tournament,
he fucking did it.
Blood Tool, not just him, Blood Tool horses like Al Hambren. Like I think 6 out of 12 of the grand finals are Blood Tool horses, which just goes to show you, no magic wand, not even close to a magic wand. You still swing and miss most of the time you use it. So it's such a difficult thing. But remember, in a game where 80% of horses are going to be glue, if you get that to 75, if you get that to 70, your ROI is like, oh my God. Because if that 10% turns into a killer, 2 killers, 3 killers, like that's the edge right there. And I'm not even saying if it works, and I'm not even telling anyone to get it, because I realize the price point is just tremendous. And if I had what he had, I wouldn't charge that amount. But take cost out of it, take everything out of it. Since I bought it, my breeding, I can't quantify the 1 ETH price. And I don't know if I ever will. I assume very closely, I definitely will get there, but I've gotten tremendous value out of it. So that's maybe the one example more than any of drop your ego. I would have probably 3 months ago walked out of Zed before dealing with him. And now, I deal with him all the time. I still think there's things where maybe out there, you can watch how he talks to people. If he wants to be someone that, worries about, but again, he's not worried about selling he's not like, I'm worried about fostering an environment, right? Where I want everyone to love each. Not everyone has to be that, right? Like, not everyone, like the reason I'm here is no better than the reason everyone else is here. Dan Shan is a businessman. Dan Shan is a gambler. Dan Shan loves horse racing in real life. He loves all these other sports that are like the track and field sports. This is up his freaking alley. Like this, he's a killer. He's making the Blood Tool like so he can win the game. Like he made it for himself, that then he just like gave it to others at like a high price. Like he doesn't give a shit if you buy it. Like don't buy it for like, that's when it hit me. Like I was like, he doesn't give a shit like if anyone buys it for 1 ETH. So I was like why constant? And then it got to the point where he wouldn't even say anything, and then everyone's comeback would be like, oh, 1 ETH, and it was like, yo, he hasn't said that in like a month or two. He hasn't been in here selling it for a while. So if we're all about, just in a general sense, being a community, second chances, people coming back, just because like your initial conversation with someone is one thing. If they're trying to act 3 months later, 4 months later, different, like let's let shit go, man. Let's let everything go, instead of like complaining about how you keep, instead of your 2 messages constantly shitting on him, and then your other messages being how you can't breed dick. Maybe you should like listen to some people who maybe, know something, and it might not work for you. I've had a ton of people who still have used Dan Shan's philosophies and haven't had it work out. So who knows? But, get rid of names and faces from theories that you may think work, and test those theories out. I bet you, because it's just like me, and it's just like everyone else. Everyone thinks there's a great person. When stuff starts working in your favor and you start utilizing things that work, you start realizing less and less and less who's actually behind those things, right? At the end of the day, we just all want to breed killers. I could say I want to raise $1 billion, million, $1 trillion for charity, and I do, but I also want to have the best horse on Nova's earth, and I feel confident, and I feel fine saying that out loud.
Yeah, and that's why I respect respect the fuck out of Dan, is because he stood on whatever he said from the jump. Like, he said the Blood Tool's the best, and he came out talking mad shit for the Maiden. I'm sitting over here like, if this dude doesn't pull this off, he's got a shit storm coming his way. And he fucking killed it, and I was like, I respect the fuck out of Dan.
Yo, the thing that's hysterical, and we laugh, like the Blood Tool like has its Discord, and that's like honestly what I think the 1 ETH is, like more than what he gets. Like it's like the conversation with these tops, like you don't see these guys in Discord, and this is where they are. Like I can get to Two Fools, I can get to like these great guys, and it's just like he should be promoting that aspect of it honestly more, because that's the knowledge. But yeah, he was always we were laughing about it because even if he didn't win, half the horses on that leaderboard were blood tool horses, like towards the top. So like I came in 5th. Al Hambren was up there with the regular tournament and the maiden. Like most horse, like there's Dan Shan horses, but there's also blood tool horses which are an extension of Dan Shan horses. So he's just getting his stamp all over the place. And what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do if is he rough around the edges? Yeah. Does he call people names that I think he shouldn't call people? Yeah. But I'm also like, I'm a 27-year-old man, and this is gambling, this is investing, and this is sport. Like, I want to worry about everyone's feelings to a point that we all got to realize, like, if we're sitting kumbaya while our assets go to 0, like none of us are going to be saying kumbaya, you know? Right. Like he's trying to breed killers. Dan Shan gave away a horse on my stream last week, and he's been in my DMs constantly, like, find this person for me. She hasn't raced her horse. I want to help her. Like, when he does stuff, like, he wants it to be great. He cares about the horses he's breeding. He doesn't put fire on these horses' names for no reason. He knows if he puts fire on a horse's name and it's shit, it's a chance for all the people to come out of the woodworks and be, your shit doesn't work. The blood tool sucks. Like, here you go. Like, he's got balls. That's like the one thing you can say about Dan Shan is he's got balls, he's got stones, and he doesn't give a shit. And I don't know the man personally. I don't need to know him personally. I maybe never need to have a relationship, or probably won't have a relationship outside of with him on Novus Earth. But, you know, for now, I respect him. And, you know, I don't agree with everything he said, but I always go as far as to say, I think he would say the same thing. We're friends now. We're friends. We're good friends now.
Yeah, and it all starts with respect, man. And even going back to the people that change their minds on him, like, in today's age, people get mad at someone for changing their mind. So I respect anybody that's changed their mind on Dan and come around full circle.
Without naming names, we could step back into a more general sense, just talk about what happened in our world, you know, over the past, like, you know, few years. You know, there was these people shitting on, like, a man or a side or a belief, and then people that followed this person kind of woke up and realized, like, okay, like, I don't want to be involved with this anymore. Let me change my mind. And then these people, instead of being there with open arms, it's too often like, told you so, we don't want you, like, shitting on you. And it's like, wait, so what do you want? You want them supporting this person? You want them supporting you? You just want them doing nothing so you can make fun of them that you were wrong? You clearly don't care about your side. You just cared about being right. It's just shitting on people for changing their mind is kind of one of the worst things you can do in society, and probably the worst thing you can do in an emerging ecosystem like we have now, where nothing's set in stone. Like we don't know, like, we know nothing. We know nothing in this game right now. Like, if we can't change our minds now, we might as well just, if you're not planning on changing your mind about something, I would recommend against buying a horse. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, if you feel a certain way right now, I respect that, because just with the Dan Shan thing, when presented with new information, then you are given the option to change your mind, right? So if you feel a certain way right now about Zed and you don't like it, but then something comes out and you like Zed right now, it's like, okay, that's fine. Something changed, and now you changed your mind.
Come back. People thought, some guys were reaching out to me and thinking I was taking. Well, one guy reached out to me and thought I was taking, like, a victory lap, and then started saying some shit about my tweet today. I was not saying it I was saying it as like a little petty, but more of like an open arms things that, like, I think it's funny how, like, so many people leave Zed and then come back because they think, like, there's brighter things on the other side. But anyone that comes back is just like, come back. Like, we're happy that you're back. We're happy that you're here. You went out to the other side. You realize you couldn't race other profile pictures. You couldn't do other things with other projects. And you realize what's so bad here is actually what makes it so great. Like, we're happy to have you. And swallow your pride, man. If your last 30 tweets are shitting on Zed, but today you woke up and you decide that you want to be a part of Zed because they did something that's great, come back, man. Take it on the chin from some hardos in the community that might rip on you for a little bit, but we're happy to have you if you want to be here and you want to actively, make the community a better place, like there's no quota on amount of people that we can have in this community that want to be here, because unfortunately there's too many people go in the opposite way. So I mean, if you're looking to come back and you want to come back, open arms. And if you're one of those people that's against them coming back, then you should ultimately like think about like investing in things, because that's just anti your investment per se.
Cool. So one last question I got for you. Zed dropped the NASCAR pass with almost like no news of what it is. Do you have one, and what do you think the utility of it is going to be?
I have one. Me and my stable, we're just lucky enough that because we're a conglomerate, because we're 4 people, we kind of always keep money on tab for that. Like just in case, we just always want to make sure to have like a NASCAR pass. I probably wouldn't have bought it honestly if we were like there's a lot of stables, like 99% of the stables, if we were in their situation, I probably wouldn't have bought it because I knew how that market was going to work. And I think it's right at mid price now. What do I think they're going to do? I think you may need them at some point for a specific tournament at the NASCAR stakes, track. And I think eventually that's going to happen with all of these tracks that they make. Eventually, they're all going to be public for most of the time. But I think like Flemington, I think NASCAR, I think Stella is going to now have the opportunity to say to Zed that they want to close those off for their own private events. And the way to get into those events will be to buy some sort of NFT that's a collaboration between them. It may be like the Zed Pass, like this one might get us into all of them. Maybe Stella, like how we do it, or Zombie does it. They can literally just produce a tournament for that specific, produce a token for that specific tournament that you need in your wallet. So I think at first it's gonna be for some sort of, it's gonna be a social token into some sort of tournament type thing, and for their sake, I hope they get on it soon, because I slowly see rumblings on Twitter and Discord that a lot of people bought them and are not quite sure what they're for. To those people, I also say shame on you, because if you buy anything in the Zed universe that isn't a horse and there's no news about it in a month, you should kind of take that as status quo and always factor it into any amount of money that you're willing to put into a purchase price.
Do you know about like the Fortnite battle pass?
No. But I know, like, look, the reason why I'm so into, like, I'm not really a gamer per se, but the whole reason why I'm into the NFT space in general is one sentence, and it's Fortnite skins. The amount of money that people spend on Fortnite skins, like, imagine if they could own like the actual stuff. And when I heard that was just like the easiest selling point into Top Shot, and then from there it kind of just went.
Yeah. So with Fortnite, you would buy the battle pass. This is what I'm thinking they're gonna do with the Zed Pass. You'd buy the battle pass, and level 1, you get 2 skins for your character, right? But now as you level up within that battle pass, you unlock stuff on the way, right? So you could unlock, well, the Zed Pass itself is its own NFT. And then you can unlock, maybe as like you level up and win races, different NFTs or like skins or like maybe a trophy or like some ETH or something. So I'm hoping that they have like some kind of level up system to where you can move throughout the ranks. And maybe if you get to like level 100 on the Zed Pass, like on Fortnite, if you reach level 100 on the battle pass, it was like the most rare skin. So maybe if you level up your or your Zed Pass, you get like a super rare NFT at the end.
So I'm imagining there's 2 things. Tell me which one the battle pass is, because I'm not. So is it like is it like a tournament? Like, I'm imagining it as like, is it a separate leaderboard? Like, are you saying there would almost be like there'd be like a NASCAR leaderboard, and everyone with a Zed Pass would be in that tournament for the month, and then NASCAR is juicing that pool, and it's only for people that own their NFT. And as you get up and down that leaderboard, you're getting airdropped, the level up things.
Not really, but kind of. It's kind of hard to explain. But with the battle pass in Fortnite, as you would get XP, your battle pass would level up. So all you would have to do is just go play Fortnite, and as you gained XP, you move throughout the ranks of the battle pass. So I'm saying like,
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Maybe.
So you're still in the normal game, but then because you have the NASCAR pass, there's these other things that you're picking up that just NASCAR is sort of like quote unquote keeping track on somewhere that they're dropping into just the NASCAR pass people, like their levels.
Right. So say if
Okay.
I have the NASCAR pass and like I get 30 wins.
Mm,
And so like maybe at 30 wins, if you have the NASCAR pass, you get a NASCAR skin, right? And maybe
that's
once you
dope.
hit 100 wins, you get like a horse, right?
What do you think about my idea
I
that I
think
just said that was because like for me, mine is like it's almost like a they should be doing that now, like super easy, right? Just like setting up a tournament for NASCAR passes, and they can make a price. They can juice the prize pool enough that it kind of sets a floor point. They can kind of play around with the mint pass based on like the prize of these tournaments that they do. And then, like you said, once they start getting people involved and make the market kind of go back up on those passes, then you introduce this level up system where do you see like a separate like how NASCAR has their own like NASCAR NFT website where you can see your horse and like what level it is specifically for like and like you're saying there's just like the NASCAR levels like 30 races, 45 races, you win 50 races, certain ETH amount of one. I guess they would have to keep track of those.
yeah, I'm sure it's probably like gonna be super confusing, but I would like to see because if we're paying 0.16 and there's 1,000 of them, and so
0.16 times 1,000.
that's a
Yeah,
big
it's
prize pool.
160.
Woo, woo, that's big money right there. So yeah, if you're doing tournaments with that, like I'm down for that all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I mean, there's always the there's always the social tokenality of these things that I think people forget about. Where I think at the minimum, these big corporations are going to be able to throw some bones in a sense of how Top Shot is doing, like with their tickets. Like I'm not a NASCAR fan. I've never been to a NASCAR event in my life, but I do foresee like, oh, you have a NASCAR pass from Zed, you get like 50% off. Like there's really simple things that I think we're all going to get super easy and quick at some point that maybe we didn't buy for and aren't looking for. But just like, so when people ask the question, at the minimum, you can be like, okay, 50% off this, 25% off like merch from the NASCAR store and stuff like that. I think each of those will be givens by the time these are the final forms. Like all the companies will be giving away their own merch and stuff with these things. And then like we just came up with like the extra stuff on top of it that creates the utility behind the social tokenality of it. I think will definitely come. And I think they know, like we just said, we just did the math. They have to start, doing some stuff.
Yeah,
with this money.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I know I said last question on that one, but
No, whatever you got.
I remember you saying you were a CPA. So personally, is it possible for me to put my horses in an LLC to where like I can have some tax deductions at the end of the year, and how would that work out?
Yeah, it's all. I'm not an expert, and it's all tricky, but
Not financial advice as well.
not financial advice for now. As it stands on November 3rd, I would say if you haven't done anything yet, don't do anything through December 31st and just play it by ear. After this year happens, I'm guaranteeing next year a ton of legislation will come out on this stuff. And the whole thing with the government is like never give them anything that they don't like force you to give, because even though you may think that you're going to take some deductions up front, there'll be something that slips through the cracks with like these great gains we're picking up, or they might just like look into, oh, you're only showing horses, like let me look into some. And I know it's like blockchain, they can't find things out, but I would say like unless you're like one of these people that has like $1 million, like millions of dollars in gains, and you can see that are like selling apes for like $1 to themselves for tax loss harvesting, which is another conversation in its own. I wouldn't do that. But when we have this conversation on November 3rd next year, I bet you'll say that you've been in some sort of corporation for a few months at that point, because legislation will have come up and there'll be more of an exact how you should do it. But for now, legit, just keep your horses in your MetaMask away from the government.
Okay.
Because they'll find a way. Like now you hear crazy Janet Yellen wanting to tax unrealized. Like these things are going to be a gold mine in the future where take whatever hits on like the little expenses we could probably take now to see how we could hide it when the legislation comes out in 5 months. Because all it's going to be is we got to figure out, how to hide it then. And that will be my job. And, because you asked, I'll just to touch on it for like 30 seconds. I'm actually really excited for next year for when the tax and accounting stuff comes into play, because that's just how my mind works. That's one of the reasons that I love Zed. I love the numbers. People see me on live and how I'm acting. At the core, I'm a nerd. So like to see how a lot of people are acting right now, and I don't know if you see them, but to see some of these $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 NFTs being sold to wallets for $1,000 towards the end of the year, like being in the tax world, that it's just someone who set up another MetaMask and they're just selling it to themselves. And they're not claiming that MetaMask. They're only claiming this one that has the huge $600,000 ape loss. And that's because, this guy's an investment banker that made $1 million on Apple sale. So he's trying to cancel that out. So, just from like a news standpoint and from a nerdy standpoint, next year after tax season over the summer, we're probably going to see some really, really, really funny and cool stories. And probably some of them will even be Zed horses, especially as we start to promote like the $500,000 sales. You bet your ass the government is looking at these huge sales and is going to look to get their hands in our pockets. So, I may become more of an asset to people at that point. And as we said about changing minds, people that don't think I provide any value now, maybe, ringing my doorbell when it's time to file taxes. And to an honest point, if you're watching this now or you're watching later and you have any questions about tax, just shoot me a DM. I know it's a really, really difficult and interesting thing. And people are nervous because, these are people that had no jobs. Now you're sitting on generational wealth and you're not sure what to do with it. And the last thing you want is the FBI to show up at your door and take it. So a lot of these things are simple answers, and I have an answer to like 95% of them. And if I don't, the best thing about me is I love saying I don't know. So I'll never give you a wrong answer.
And when we breed a horse and sell it for a loss, would that be a tax deduction possibly?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that. So I mean,
yeah, see, but that's the thing. While I'm also saying we have to wait, because as tax is now, the cost basis is the cost, and the basis. The basis is the cost, and then what you sell is the realized amount you get. But breeding, I have horses themselves are such a weird asset that Zed is going to be weird on top of just being NFTs, because people are going to start saying it's an asset, but it's a horse. And I have some people that buy and sell horses as clients. And when you start doing that, their like basis gets like the training comes into your basis. Or people are going to say like their first 30 races, are you raising the basis of your horse? Because your first 30 races are training, right? Is that the equivalent of paying a trainer in real life? There's a bunch of different things that now, when people may look at it and say, no, it's just like an NFT asset, like these digital assets are all looked at the same way. It doesn't raise basis. But as it stands right now, the law, if you breed a horse and sell it as a loss, it should be a written off loss.
Okay. We're
and you'll see that, and you'll see tax harvest loss. You'll see tax loss harvesting with that.
I like that.
You'll see people maybe breeding some horses and then selling them at a loss and then writing them off.
And do you think there's going to be a lot of fraud of the people selling?
Billions.
Yeah.
The government's already like cringing and going crazy a little bit. They're just like starting to figure out what like Bitcoin and Ethereum is. Like that's why I'm saying to you, like, and like to you, for your specific question, financial advice, because you asked me, don't put them in an LLC before the year, because like just keep it hidden, like keep everything hidden for now. There's no legislator on it now. You're not doing anything illegal. You have a MetaMask, you have a wallet. There's no one saying anything about anything. And that's the way it's going to be until something is written in an IRS mandated release that they have and that they want us to follow that says this needs to be with that. Until then, but also don't tell your accountant, because your accountant would have to put it on your books.
And
So
I remember doing taxes last year, and there was like one small box that said like, "Did you trade, convert?"
there's a box. It's like for my system, it's like one of the second or third questions you have to answer in the system, or else it won't let me e-file a tax return. It says like, do you own crypto? Do you own virtual currency, virtual assets, like all this stuff, blah blah blah. We have been telling people yes for that, even if you don't put like the assets, even if you don't claim the assets, to still put that you have some, because there's a lot of scenarios. Like if you buy and don't sell on an individual tax return, you don't have to claim your assets until you sell them. So it's very, very simple to just say, oh, I have some Bitcoin, I have some Ethereum, just to check that off. So like, if next year we do decide that, you have a bunch of losses, we want to show it, they don't look at your return last year and be like, hey, you said you didn't have anything, and now you're saying you purchased this last year. What's going on? We can't give you, the long-term status. It's a short-term gain or loss. So for that question, I would check the box that said you do have it if you do. But if you didn't sell anything and there's nothing that you need to show for any purposes of inflating any assets of any business that you may have, out of sight, out of mind is what my suggestion would be.
Okay. And do they have like a universal regulation yet? Because I live in
No,
Washington State.
no.
And they said that they're going to tax us on conversion. So conversion from Ethereum to Bitcoin, or Bitcoin to this, like that just seems ridiculous at that point.
They only tax you on things that you say that you have. Remember that, right? And there's no legislation as to, look, there is, based on how other assets have been handled, this is how NFTs should be handled. But again, when you're playing with the government plays a certain way. You got to play that way back with them. Heck, they haven't put anything in writing. Just because I assume that this is how things should be handled because other assets have been handled, the government likes to throw, sections, legislature at you. For me, I'm saying, okay, I'm happy to show everything. Just put it in a released, unified thing, like you're saying. And once that happens, it'll be released everywhere. Like everyone will have that. There'll be an IRC section code, and then there'll be a step-by-step guide. But the nice thing about the government is they never have anything. Their heads are so far up their butt that unless they ask something for you specifically, never give it to them. And there's nothing. So, gains and losses, from places like places that send you, if you get a 1099, you got to put that on, of course. Like if you're trading Bitcoin or Ethereum or coins on like Coinbase or Robinhood, and they're sending you a 1099 at the end of the year, the IRS gets a copy of that 1099. So they know, and they'll call you out and charge you a penalty, which can be sizable. So you don't want to do that. But anything that's just you keeping track on a spreadsheet because you're selling, assets, that doesn't have that. The IRS has no notion of that, of what you own, unless you say you own it. And like, we know how MetaMasks work.
Is it a taxable event when you sell for Ethereum, or is it only taxable when you go back to fiat?
They want to tax you in both.
That seems ridiculous.
They want to tax you in both. But again, it's not like the only time it's so tough. And it's so tough because if you're doing it on these services like Coinbase and Robinhood, every single time you buy and sell, it's a notable transaction. So both ways, like it's just as soon as you buy the Ethereum, if you sell it, like it's crazy. So when you're dealing with the currencies, unfortunately, that's when I tell people to be a little bit more, like if you're buying or selling the Bitcoin and the Ethereum, even if you're if you have a lot of Doge or like some of the more mainstream ones, you may want to show a little bit of that because those are the ones they're cracking down on because they will tax you on those. But yeah, they're trying to, when I saw Janet Yellen saying that thing about unrealized gains, I was dying. It's like, no one's going to invest anymore. And it's just crazy. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of things that happen in the Zed world are taxable because of the amount of transactions there are. Scary thing, but also another opportunity You know, I bet you by the time next year there'll be a know your horses for tracking assets, or maybe know your horses will even do it where that's a service that you can have. I know there's other NFT ones that are popping out for tax time that you can use for Zed horses, but there'll probably be a Zed specific one where you print out a CSV Excel file at the end of the year, cost, profit, expense, all everything, a spreadsheet of P&L. I've thought about dabbling in it, but not yet. If we're at this time next year and no one has come up with, you know, a help guide for Zed taxes, I'll do something with it. But I never like to mix business with pleasure, so I've tried to keep these things as opposite as possible. I am a businessman. I do realize though that like lucratively going in the future, if I worry about my practice as much as I do, like going into the NFT accounting space could be a spot to go, especially with all the resources and friends that I have now that have all this wealth. It would just be stupid for me not to, work with them. That's why I'm always saying, like, if you have a question, reach out to me. I'm not charging anyone for anyone. If you have a question, I could always help you with whatever you got. I know it's spooky, scary taxes, but I'm telling you, it's probably like one of the easiest things in the world when you realize how stupid the government is.
Gotcha. So if I bought diamonds for 1.1 and I sold them for 10, but held it in Ethereum, is that a taxable event? Because I'm still in the Ethereum currency, even though I flipped an asset, I'm like still in that currency and I haven't went back to fiat. That's where I feel like things get really confusing.
It's confusing because the government doesn't know. Again, it's like, we're not saying, like, me and you, like this like, I'm not saying I don't know because like I don't understand what they've said. They just haven't said anything, and they keep saying cryptocurrency is a currency, and then at the same time they say it's not a currency. So what you said is just an example of, like, say I bought diamonds for a Jeep Wrangler, and then I sold diamonds for like a Jeep Cherokee. It'd be kind of tracked like the fair market value of like those assets, right? And it's weird when Ethereum has a perfect exchange rate per se. It's like, it would be, I would say it'd be it'd be taxable. It'd be taxable.
Yeah.
It'd be taxable, and also should, like, if I just look at it from like what it is, it like makes sense. That's one of those where I'm like, it's okay. And as much as I hate the government and hate taxes and like want to be like, let's pay as minimum tax as possible, like that's one to me that it makes sense that tax is paid on some number, right? Like, as much as you don't want to pay tax on anything, like, just as someone who understands, you know, money and how the world works, like, hey, you have a cost and you sell it, no matter what the currency is, it kind of makes sense to, at some point, you have to pay tax on some sort of gain. So yeah, I would say that there was taxable. Again, as legislature is passed on, it's going to really depend on when this year, if they finally decide to make Ethereum like USD, like every other currency of every other country, or if they say it's a stock and it's like you're using a stock to buy something, because those two things are treated a little differently. Both taxable in different means. Some has a basis involved with it. Some of it doesn't have a basis involved with it. Depending on how they say it, you may get taxed on the difference. You may get taxed on the whole thing. So for now, the good thing is if you don't say it, you don't get taxed on it at all. And then it's just, you know, keeping track. I have a nice spreadsheet of everything that I buy and sell and on the date that I do it, just because that's another thing I tell people, track the dates. More importantly, you can always look up the price of Ethereum on the date. You just need the date. So always track the date and the cost and the price, because they fluctuate. And if it turns, like, you don't know how they're going to want to tax things, if they're going to tax that they need the conversion in USD. So it's always just have what you need, but don't show anything until they ask you for it.
Awesome, man. Where can people catch you at, Zook?
Twitter, Instagram. I'm not Instagram. Twitter, Discord, Twitch. You find me popping around. I'm on Pony Plug. I'm on as many other streams as I can. Really, like, I'm pretty bad with my DMs, to be honest, because like I don't have many friends in life, so I don't really answer my phone. And now, like, I wake up sometimes and like I have a bunch of DMs. I don't get mad if you reach out to me and I don't answer for a day or two, and then you reach out to me again with the same exact question. I actually prefer that, Because the thing that I hate most is when I look like 7 days later and I miss the message. It actually genuinely makes me feel bad. So just reach out to me. Tax question, Zed question, sports question, life question. I'm happy to help. I really, 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 really love helping people with their horses. So if you have a horse that you don't know, like exactly what to do with it, send it my way. I'll either give you my opinion of it, or a lot of times what I do, similar to when someone asks me opinion on something else, people's horses remind me of other people's horses. So I say, hey, this is like so-and-so's horses. Go check out with that. But that's even more about just, now those two people have a relationship and just spreading out friendships. So yeah, check me out on any of the social medias. I'm in the Zed Discord. I'm on the Pony Poke Discord, Sean's Discord, Know Your Horses Discord, Zombies Discord, all the major players. Just, have fun with what's going on. Zed is definitely not dead. If you say it is, you may win the next Zed tournament. So we'll see what happens. But this was a dope 2.5 hour conversation. This was fun. I feel like we had a great conversation, and it's good to sometimes just have these long-winded conversations about what Zed means to you without having to worry about time and constraint and what's going on. And we said something an hour and a half ago, but now something came to our mind. Let's bring it back up. This was a lot of fun. And it's a series, like I said, at 12 at noon. I work very hard from like 8:30 to lunch, and then when lunch starts, I kind of turn on whatever podcast I want to listen to, and then my day kind of goes down from there. So, this fits perfectly, and definitely, Zed is looking for some more like everyday shit. Like we have like the once a week stuff. Like I think this is perfect, and I've listened to everyone. I mean that. Like I've listened to everyone so far. So I'll definitely be out there championing this, and hopefully can come back on soon.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm excited to have you back on. We fucking went for 2 hours, had a great conversation, and it was nice to meet you, bro.
Thank you, sir. And like GVG for Stable Duels is next week, but then we release the next 4, and you'll be on that. So you'll have to be out there getting people to vote for you. And I have a feeling it may still be Lucky Jack, so maybe you'll be the one to take him out.
All right, Lucky don't want no smoke with me.
Nah, Lucky. The crazy thing about Lucky is he does want all that smoke, and he keeps beating people, which is crazy. But someone will take him out soon, and we'll see who it will be. And within, it could be you in 2 weeks if the people vote that way. So we will see. You got the stable that can do it. A lot of people that got the stable that can do it. It's just about showing up on that Tuesday night and doing it. But we will see.
I'm there, bro. Just hit me in the DMs, and I got you.
I got you. Thank you so much. Like I said, I genuinely mean it. This was one of my favorite conversations. We haven't really talked much or at all in person. So I like the fact that we just kind of did roll it 2.5 hours, whatever we want to talk about. And if you ever, not that I know more people than you, but if there's anyone that, you see in the ecosystem that you see me talking to that you want to come on, I can always get, anyone to pop on this. I know a lot of people have stuff they want to say, don't stream themselves, and would love to come on and be a guest.
Hell yeah. And if you ever want to recommend people to me, I'm here. I'll be here Monday through Friday. So
okay.
I'll bring everybody up.
Trust me, I'm going to take advantage of that. I got a ton of people to send your way that got stuff to say. And, I'm kind of not doing the show that, can do that. And you kind of are. So I would love to send them your way.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you for the conversation.
Perfect, brother. Have a good one.
You as well.